520 revision. Which battles to forfeit, which to fight with all our might, who to send against different opponents, learning to make strategic sacrifices, engaging in psychological warfare amongst ourselves, we are battling not just in courage but also in wits. Although Elder Luo seemed carefree and oftentimes not very serious, he was once the supreme commander against the Beast Tide in the Jojo Alliance, with an outstanding strategic vision in commanding battles. He couldn't be clearer about the original intention of these competitions between the 9 elite schools. That is to say, Elder Luo had an idea of how to break the situation but didn't spell it out. Instead, he wanted Xiang Beifei's team to think for themselves first, which was also a form of training. If their ideas were not feasible, Elder Luo would then give further guidance. Having heard what Elder Luo said, nobody had a reason to complain anymore. Yi Changfeng and Yu Qixin were also sitting off to the side, now silent, watching the 5 members of Xiang Beifei's team. Xiang Beifei and his team were quiet. After a long silence, Long Guocheng was the first to speak. Tomorrow's competition, our first battle is the second match, facing Qingzhou University. We don't know who they will send against us. Xiang Beifei said, the person Qingzhou University will send tomorrow will definitely be Ho Qingguo. No doubt about it. Long Guocheng asked, are you so certain? Qingzhou University has 2 SSRs and 1 UR plus 2 SRs, and they still haven't decided on a candidate. Xiang Beifei said, it has to be Ho Qingguo. He had initially refused our Liangzhou University and turned to Qingzhou University. He must prove to others that not choosing Liangzhou University was the right decision. The way to do it is to come and beat us personally. That's also true, Li Zimu nodded thoughtfully. I think he was embarrassed by you today, and he would want to take revenge. Xiang Beifei, do you have the ability to defeat Ho Qingguo? Shi Qiao asked. Xiang Beifei fell silent for a moment and then nodded slightly. The expressions of Long Guocheng and the others improved a bit. They now recognized Xiang Beifei and knew his capabilities. This guy might not be an SSR, but his strength was absurdly strong. With him on board, even if Liangzhou University was not as overtly strong as those 3 universities, it was enough to compete with other schools. But if other schools send SSRs against us, we are almost certain to lose. Xiang Beifei can only fight twice, meaning at best he can score 2 points. But the 4 of us are likely to lose, Ma Ziqin said. Unless we find a way to stop them from all sending SSRs to face us, Li Zimu said. They all think we're easy targets now. How can we change their minds? Long Guocheng asked. Quite simple. We must let them know that we are not that weak, Xiang Beifei said. Realizing what this meant, Li Zimu said, I get it. Our school needs to have an awakener in the Meridian opening phase, so they won't all send those from the Meridian opening phase against us. That means tomorrow, when facing Qingzhou University, Xiang Beifei, you must fight. An individual could compete at most twice, which means that after Xiang Beifei's first fight, as long as he showed a glimmer of his true strength, it would be enough to intimidate the people from the other schools, making them wary. They would understand that the Liangzhou University persimmon might not be so easy to squeeze. If the SSR they sent next faced Xiang Beifei, a difficult opponent, and lost the battle, it would be a significant loss. Hence, other schools would not send their SSRs recklessly to confront Liangzhou University. This ability was very peculiar. It could target any being with a sin, whether a desolate beast or a person. It would create a so-called gate in the target's mind, even if this gate was not the opponent's original weakness. Take the triangular thunder kite, its original weakness was its eyes. But if Yu Qixin used the 7 deadly sins kill, he could shift that weakness to another area, such as moving the gate to the tail of the triangular thunder kite. Then, as long as Yu Qixin struck the kite's tail, the triangular thunder kite would inevitably die. This ability is indeed formidable. Forcibly changing an opponent's weakness? Xiang Beifei said in awe. Right, I heard that originally 2 SSR Awakeners were supposed to come to our Liangzhou University, but Liangzhou University admitted an N level, and those 2 SSRs looked down on our Liangzhou University and went to other elite schools instead, Zimu said. Wouldn't the school be infuriated? Losing 2 SSRs because of 1 N-level student. Indeed. That N-level awakener really knows how to cause trouble, Zimu said. At that moment, Xiang Beifei suddenly exclaimed in surprise, because he noticed a figure that had appeared abruptly behind the infant. This figure seemed to have teleported there, holding a sword with a strong presence, ignoring the tentacles. It was Yi Changfeng. Yi Changfeng frowned as he looked at the small infant and then slashed down with his sword. The infant seemed to realize the danger, but before it could turn around, Yi Changfeng's sword had already split the small infant in two. However, the infant did not dissipate. After being split open, numerous tentacles burst from its body and merged into the surrounding tentacles. Courting death, Yi Changfeng gripped his long sword and slashed forward again. This slash was like a bolt of lightning, mixed with a terrifying force. The ferocious sword chi stretched hundreds of meters, creating a fissure straight through the tentacles-filled sky. The tendrils that were severed tried to congeal again, but were soon blasted apart by countless streams of sword chi. Boom! 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 None of the tendrils could successfully escape under Yi Changfeng's sword. He destroyed them all across the city. The tendrils were shredded to pieces by the sword chi, while the remaining ones, fearful, began to retract towards the ground and soon vanished from sight. You all wait here. Don't run around. Yi Changfeng flung the sword in his hand, and the Long Yuan sword hovered above the three of them as if to protect them. Meanwhile, he produced another sword and took a step forward. Space flickered, and he disappeared into mid-air. Thank goodness Mr. Yi came. Fan Kai breathed a sigh of relief. If Mr. Yi hadn't arrived in time, they might have been done for on this trip. However, Sun Yushan didn't quite understand and said, "What kind of desolate beast is this thing? How come we've never seen it before?" The two of them had trained in this cultivated domain for 3 years and were roughly familiar with what kinds of desolate beasts there were. Some desolate beasts were powerful, but none had ever been as troublesome as this time. They hadn't expected that today. They almost lost their lives here. Xiang Beifei thought for a moment, then turned to Xiaohe and said, "Xiaohe, you should be able to lead him out of this space, right?" Xiaohe nodded. This was a space created by the system, and no system ability could trap Xiaohe, who could leave the system's restraints directly if it chose to. Then take him out of this space first. Let him stay in the forest. Xiang Beifei said. One didn't know what dangers existed on this solitary island, but given that Lu Gui had been injured to this extent, it wasn't safe to leave him here any longer. Tossing him to the forest outside was a better option. Xiaohe jumped onto Lu Gui and stepped on him with a little foot, causing Lu Gui's body to become somewhat strange. Xiang Beifei could still see him but could also see the forest ground outside the space. That should do it. Xiao Ma and the others might come searching in the forest. We need to continue looking for the other people. Lu Gui's current state should prevent him from getting hurt by any desolate beast on the island. So Xiang Beifei needed to find Lu Jiwei and He Yun quickly. Based on their description just now, the forest was very unsafe and could kill them. Xiang Beifei continued to leap forward. He walked for about 5 minutes when suddenly, a series of urgent noises came from the woods, followed by a. At school, the only people who could provide him with useful system-generated rewards were teachers. Even classmates who were S-level were still in the early stages of chi controlling, and their task rewards were of no use up to now. He had inadvertently been involved in many teachers' tasks. These people actually chose to teach because of their own systems and would often carry out tasks on students. But system-generated rewards don't come instantly. You have to wait until the task is completed to receive them. Some people's tasks take a long time to complete, a few days at the least and several months at most, so even if you're involved in a reward, it won't come quickly. However, Xiang Beifei had his principles. Some teachers and classmates were quite kind to him, and it would be innocent to lose their hard-earned rewards from tasks aimed at improving themselves. He wouldn't take advantage of these people. As long as they didn't provoke him, everyone could get along harmoniously. During the 2-day weekend, Xiang Qingde went to the vegetable market, while Xiang Beifei stayed home and continued to practice the Chaos Yin-Yang formula and finally broke through to the middle stage of chi controlling. He found that his speed of improving strength was faster than that of S-level awakeners, even though Zhuo Jing and Lu Qianrou were still in the early stages of chi controlling, and many R-level and N-level classmates hadn't even reached the threshold of chi controlling up to now. Everyone had a system, and improving strength all depended on completing tasks. Of course, some systems provided the hosts with various cultivation methods, mainly to enhance physical fitness requiring personal practice. But obviously, the speed of promotion was different. So you're the N-level newbie trying to get into Liangzhou University by leveraging public opinion pressure? Said A. Heard your academic scores are quite high, but do you think our elite university is a place where anyone who is good at studying can come? Another boy sneered. Come on, let your sister take care of you and teach you how to write elite, said a girl in revealing clothing, stretching and poking her little finger in her ear. Hey, you Xiaoyao, we got here first, and it's our job to set an example for the newbies. Get your Flower Snow Moon Club to line up, the tall boy commanded. The girl known as Yu Xiaoyao let out a string of bell-like laughter, saying, What's wrong? Are you from the Mount Tai Club still sore about your loss to us and looking to save face by picking on Awakeners at level N? Is that the best you can do? What do you mean? We went easy on you girls last time, can't you see? The tall boy retorted. Heh, now that's really amusing. Ding Ming, since you love giving in so much, why not do it again? Yu Xiaoyao said with a sneer, her slender waist twisting as she chuckled. We're all here to teach a lesson to a brat who doesn't know his place, so why fight over it? Someone chimed in. Lu Jiwei frowned and stepped in front of Xiang Beifei, exclaiming, Come on, enough is enough. I've got his back. Let's see who dares to touch him. As she shouted, Yu Xiaoyao and the others paused to look at Lu Jiwei. Lu Jiwei, does your detective club also want to muddle in? Yu Xiaoyao eyed Lu Jiwei cautiously. She had to be somewhat wary of her, as Lu Jiwei wasn't an easy target to provoke. The tall boy Ding Ming looked at Lu Jiwei with a cold sneer. Lu Jiwei, is your detective club planning to cover for this level N trash that's tarnishing the reputation of Liangzhou University? Stop pinning big hats on us. At that moment, a crew-cut boy stepped out from the crowd and responded, then turned to Lu Jiwei with a frown, saying, Lu Jiwei, what are you doing? Why are you hanging out with a level N? Don't damage our detective club's reputation. Lu Jiwei angrily retorted, Are you people idiots? How has Xiang Beifei tarnished the reputation of Liangzhou University? The news already said it was Yulei's one-man show, so you're just living in your own narrative, deliberately rejecting the truth, right? Anyone can make a claim in the news, but I won't allow a level N person to join our Liangzhou University. He doesn't deserve it. Exactly. This is a gathering place for elites, not a dump for trash. Level N people, get out of Liangzhou University. Level N people, get out of Liangzhou University. Many people started shouting, though a few students on the side didn't join in. They merely watched from the sidelines. Not all elite students have a strong hostile temperament. Some are quite rational. However, given the situation at hand, those opposing Xiang Beifei were too many. Even rational voices speaking up could inadvertently become a target for condemnation. Lu Jiwei was furious. Someone from their detective club was trying to reach her, telling her not to stir up trouble. But Lu Jiwei was not one to back down from a fight. She was fiercely arguing her point. Lu Jiwei, if you keep defending this level N individual, our detective club will have to distance ourselves from you, the crew-cut boy said. Distancing is fine by me. You think I care? Lu Jiwei, infuriated, clenched her fists and declared, Come on. I'll make it clear today. Whoever dares to lay a finger on him will have to answer to my fists. Lu Jiwei, if you're so eager to fight, how about going against me? A boy stepped up to her with a challenge. This boy was also an expert in the late stage of chi controlling. Lu Jiwei eyed him warily. Clearly, this person was not to be underestimated, but she did not retreat. However, Zhuo Jing's expression was far from happy. Xiang Beifei had now become the center of attention, and his auspicious score of 581 was no longer attracting anyone's praise. He had to actively seek approval. Shun Zhenrong led his granddaughter as they walked out, preparing to leave the forest. As they walked, he said, There's a pioneering spot nearby. Wait there for me. I'll come back here later. Grandpa, it's better not to take the risk, Shin Tong Tong insisted. Shin Jinrong looked at his granddaughter indulgently, smiling. Don't worry. I know how to deal with those red-headed weasels. When I was a pioneer, I dealt with many desolate beasts like them. However, at that moment, sharp cries seemed to ring out from within the forest, the surrounding leaves shaking rapidly, and then one after another, red-headed weasels appeared on the branches, staring at the two of them hungrily. It's the red-headed weasels. Shin Jinrong was first startled, then quickly said with delight. He had planned to come back later to find them, but he hadn't expected these red-headed weasels to show up on their own. Red-headed weasels had white bodies, but their heads were covered with blood-red fur, looking somewhat cute in appearance, but they were actually very fierce. Their combat power was also extremely high, and warriors at the early stage of Meridian opening would avoid such beast groups. Grandpa, something's not right. It's really not right, Shin Tong Tong said nervously as she watched the red-headed weasels in front of them. Don't worry. Stand behind me. I'll handle it. In Shin Jinrong's hand, 3 blue bombs appeared. These were pioneering tools specifically for red-headed weasels. When the bombs exploded, they would emit blue powder. If the red-headed weasels got covered in blue powder, they would lose their perception ability, making them much easier to clean up. He still had experience. To ensure nothing went wrong, he had specifically bought many potent pioneering tools. Since they were designed for the Meridian opening stage, one bomb was priced starting at 50,000, which was very expensive. But he wouldn't frown at spending any amount of money for his granddaughter's system quest. Squeak! 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 All the red-headed weasels on the branches leapt onto the limbs, surrounding the two of them, about 19 in total. Shin Jinrong was just about to take action, but his face changed, because somewhere among the leaves, a giant purple kuei snake had appeared. Why is there a purple kuei snake here? Shin Jinrong whispered in surprise. Purple kuei snakes and red-headed weasels were like oil and water, natural enemies. Normally, a purple kuei snake wouldn't break into red-headed weasel territory, as it would be attacked to death. However, when this purple kuei snake appeared, the red-headed weasels showed no hostility towards it. They just kept their gaze fixed on Shin Jinrong. Whoosh! Whoosh! The red hats on the red-headed weasels' heads suddenly flared up with scorching flames, and roaring, they lunged at Shin Jinrong. Shin Jinrong instantly crushed the bombs in his hand, spraying out blue mist, which rushed toward the red-headed weasels. The flames on the heads of the red-headed weasels were extremely lethal, but as long as these flames were extinguished, their combat power would be directly halved. However, when the blue bombs exploded in midair, the red-headed weasels ignored the blue powder, which did not affect them even though it fell on their bodies. Meanwhile, the flames on their heads turned into a line of fire and rushed over. How can it not work? Shin Jinrong's expression turned from shock to grave seriousness. In theory, these bombs specifically for red-headed weasels should have worked. Could they be counterfeit goods? He had no time to think further, as several red-headed weasels were already rushing toward him. He waved his hand, and amidst the trembling of spiritual power, his arm rapidly wrapped in a layer of gray-brown stone skin, petrifying his arm. This was his system ability, capable of fusing his body with various stones, using their hardness to enhance his offensive and defensive power. He slapped at one of the red-headed weasels, accurately striking its head. Normally, with his intermediate meridian opening strength, crushing the head of an early-stage red-headed weasel would have been a breeze, but he quickly froze when his arm passed right through the head of the weasel. Meanwhile, another red-headed weasel had bypassed him and bit down on his arm. Crack! A crack appeared in Shin Jinrong's petrified arm, which was bitten open by the red-headed weasel. Hiss! Shin Jinrong took a sharp breath as his arm was bitten open, the red-headed weasel's venom infiltrating and numbing his arm. He couldn't understand. His defense should have been very strong, yet somehow these red-headed weasels were more formidable than he had imagined. He had been injured as soon as he struck. Whoosh! Whoosh! Shun Jinrong suppressed the pain in his arm because several more red-headed weasels were lunging at him. He wished to dodge, but his granddaughter was right next to him. If he moved aside, the weasels would harm his granddaughter. So he immediately shouted, "Tong Tong, run!" Shun Jinrong turned and pushed his granddaughter behind him, but he himself was directly bitten by 5 red-headed weasels on the arm. Crack, crack, crack. The sound of splitting came from his arm, and before Shun Jinrong could react, there was a crunch, and his right arm was bitten off by the sharp teeth of the red-headed weasels. Blood gushed out from where his arm had been severed, revealing the white bone fragments. Ah! Shun Jinrong's face instantly went pale. He could only petrify the outer layer of his skin while underneath was normal flesh and blood. The heart-piercing pain made him let out a terrible scream, and his whole body was covered in cold sweat. Tong Tong, run! Shun Jinrong, heedless of his own injuries, immediately turned around, a stone escape talisman appearing in his left hand as he slapped it towards Shun Tong Tong, intending to send his granddaughter away with all his might. However, just as he stretched out his left arm, another red flash passed by in the distance, and the tail of the purple Kuei snake, sharp like a blade's edge, cleanly severed his left arm at the shoulder. Thump! Shun Jinrong's severed arm fell to the ground, the stone escape talisman in his hand not having reached his granddaughter before falling to the ground. "Grandfather!" Shun Tong Tong cried out in terror. "Run! Pick up the stone escape talisman and run!" Shun Jinrong, despite being pale from the excruciating pain, still urgently shouted, for his granddaughter's life was more important to him than his own. But Shun Tong Tong refused to leave. She ran towards her grandfather, wanting to drag him away with her. Yet the tail of the purple Kuei snake struck at her again like a cleaving blade. "Be careful!" Though Shun Jinrong had lost both his hands, he still threw himself forward, shielding his granddaughter, who was only at the mid-stage of chi controlling, for without his protection, she would surely have been in jeopardy. Shun Jinrong mustered all his strength to push his granddaughter away, and the tail of the purple Kuei snake struck him directly at the waist. Despite his skin having turned to stone, the purple Kuei snake sliced through him as easily as if cutting vegetables, severing him completely in two at the waist. "Grandfather!" Shun Tong Tong let out a terrified scream, staring at the lower half of her grandfather's body on the ground, utterly frightened. Go quickly. Tong Tong must survive." Shun Jinrong's consciousness had already become blurry. Desolate beasts were incredibly fierce. Having been a pioneer all his life, he had retired unscathed, only to face death in such a place today. However, more and more red weasels rushed towards him. From somewhere, Shun Tong Tong summoned the courage to let out a loud shout, her mouth emitting a piercing screech. This sound was extremely shrill, yet it caused the red weasels still in the air to halt, all of them looking at Shun Tong Tong in surprise, because the sound she made was their language, and for the moment they seemed unable to distinguish whether Shun Tong Tong was one of their own. Indeed, she is a beast language awakener. The young man atop the tree branches watched the battle below with indifference. The short-haired woman beside him let out a sinister laugh. "Take her away. The old man's corpse will evaporate. Leave no trace." Grandfather, please be all right." Shun Tong Tong had fallen into despair, clutched the broken upper half of her grandfather's body tightly, at a loss for what to do. She was only a novice to the awakening system for less than a month and didn't realize the danger of this place before. "Tong Tong, you must survive. Go quickly." At this point, Shun Jinrong had already lost consciousness from the pain, but he was still muttering, urging his granddaughter to flee for her life. The young man snapped his fingers, and the purple Kuei snake darted beside Shun Tong Tong, coiling around and lifting her. Meanwhile, the red weasels that Shun Tong Tong had briefly halted reacted once more, their flames on their heads surging towards Shun Jinrong like magma, intending to engulf him. "Tong Tong!" Shun Jinrong shouted in agony. He was filled with regret. Had he known, he would not have pretended to be strong and brought his granddaughter on this venture. Now, seeing that he was not going to survive and his granddaughter's life was at stake, He felt as if the sky was collapsing. But then, at that moment, the air seemed to solidify, the flames of the red weasels suddenly slowing down, and after lingering for an age, they still had not reached Shin-Jinro. The purple Kuei snake in the air also stopped midway, unable to take Shin-Tong-Tong away. The young man and the short-haired woman standing amongst the treetops furrowed their brows simultaneously, and then, as if they realized something, they quickly darted away. At the same time, a sharp edge cut through where they had been standing. Whoosh! The tree was sliced in half, but the bifurcated tree did not immediately collapse. Its fall was exceedingly slow, as if time had slowed down. Such a powerful psychic illusion! The short-haired woman landed warily on a tree branch, scanning her surroundings in search of the creator of this illusion. She was not greatly affected by it, but the young man appeared to be bound, his actions 2 beats too slow. What's happening? Why do I feel my movements have slowed? The young man asked in a low tone. That's just your misperception. Don't be led astray, the short-haired woman shouted. Is it the Sioux people? The young man attempted to raise his hand but failed. No, this aura, it couldn't be, the short-haired woman started to say. However, her words were cut short as a red light burst forth and barreled towards her. She crossed her hands before her chest and managed to block the red light. Then her body floated backwards like a falling leaf. 4:30 in the afternoon. Revised. However, judging by the situation on the scene, there were too many people hostile towards Xiang Beifei. Even if rational people spoke up, they might accidentally become targets of condemnation. Lu Jiwei was very angry. Someone from their detective agency was looking for her, telling her not to stir up trouble. But Lu Jiwei was not one to shy away from confrontation. She was arguing her case vigorously. Lu Jiwei, if you continue to protect this N-level, our detective agency will have to draw a clear line with you. A boy with a buzz cut said. Draw the line then. You think I care? Lu Jiwei, fuming, clenched her fists and declared, Come on. I'm putting it out there today. Whoever dares to touch a single hair on him, ask my fists. Lu Jiwei, if you're so eager to fight, why not fight with me? A boy stepped forward, eyeing Lu Jiwei. This boy was also an expert at the late stage of chi controlling. Lu Jiwei watched him warily. This person was obviously not easy to provoke, but she did not back down. However, Zhuo Jing's expression was very unsightly. Xiang Beifei had already become the center of attention, his lucky score of 581 no longer able to attract others' praise. He had to actively seek praise. So what if he scored high? Acting as if he can get into an elite university. Zhuo Jing spat in jealousy in his heart. Among the 9 elite universities, only Liangzhou University accepted N-level awakeners. But even Liangzhou University set assessment thresholds for N-level students and would not easily let them pass. And Zhuo Jing, with his scores, could easily gain admission to an elite university. Zhuo Jing looked at his system panel, where his appreciation value had reached 5,129, enough to exchange for the piercing strike cultivation technique. Another task requiring a score of 550 and 2,000 appreciations to exchange for a double appreciation card was also completed. But he was not in a hurry to exchange them. Now was not the time for exchanging cultivation techniques. The crowd was all focused here, and he wanted to seize the opportunity to gain more appreciation value. Soon, he thought of another way to attract everyone's attention. That's right, with my score, gaining admission to any of the 9 elite universities would be more than sufficient. After all, I am an S-level, not an N-level, and getting into an elite university is very easy for me, but elite universities don't accept N-levels. Zhuo Jing said these words loudly to a friend next to him, not hiding the pride in his voice. While a group of people was watching Xiang Beifei, upon hearing Zhuo Jing's words, they pondered for a moment, then realized the problem. Right? So what if Xiang Beifei was the school valedictorian? He was only N-level, and elite universities usually did not accept N-level students. Even Liangzhou University, the sole exception, had not admitted N-level students for 10 consecutive years. The thresholds set by elite universities for N-level students were incredibly high. Many people, led by Zhuo Jing's words, looked at Xiang Beifei with changed eyes, their admiration tinged with regret. That was too disappointing. An S-level with a score of 500 could easily get in, but a high-stakes score of 732 was blocked out of the elite universities. Everyone was sighing. The talent of your awakened system determined the threshold for university. That's how realistic this world is. But everyone understood that the reason for this situation was that the N-level system was too absurd, issuing tasks that defied logic, lacking in potential. In this world, the most profound truth is, education needs to be applied in practice. A good system allows you to apply your acquired knowledge more skillfully. If you had an absurd system like the N-level, even if you learned a lot from books, it would be very difficult to complete system tasks, and you wouldn't achieve the goal of applying knowledge. In other words, your cultural class score determines the lower limit of your foundation, while the grade of your system talent determines the upper limit of your future potential. In the world of systems, high scores in cultural classes only mean that you have a deeper understanding of the world than the average person, but it doesn't mean your future achievements are higher than others. If people were compared to trees, then the awakened system is like the fertilizer that helps nurture the tree. The fertilizer produced by an N-level system could at most make the tree grow to 1 meter in the future, but R-level could make it grow to 10 meters, and S-level could make it grow to 100 meters. As for SR and SSR grades, there's no need to say, they can cultivate a person into a towering tree. And the 9 elite universities, as the name suggests, cultivate students with high future potential. What a pity for such a promising seedling. It would have been better if he had an R-level system at least. Someone couldn't help but lament. Yeah, such a waste. Others echoed with sympathy, pity, and schadenfreude. All kinds of looks were present. Even though they were aware that Liangzhou University might still hold the hope of admitting N-level students, that hope was very slim. Because that assessment, according to legend, was an insurmountable gulf for N-level students. Who would have imagined that a school valedictorian with a score of 732 would face such an embarrassing situation? At the same time, everyone's optimism about Zhuo Jing increased. Even though his score was only 581, more than 100 points less than Xiang Beifei's, the thing was, he was an S-level. Such scores would comfortably get him into one of the 9 elite universities, and he could choose a good major. The class president is amazing. Which of the 9 elite universities is the class president planning to choose? Someone asked enviously. Is that even a question? With his bonus points, he has a total score of 631. He can pick any of the 9 elite universities. Yeah. A grade S score of 631 is much stronger than a grade N score of 732. You received praise from Kong. Appreciation value +2. You received praise from Lulan. Appreciation value +2. Zhuo Jing took the opportunity to harvest another wave of appreciation value and felt invigorated. He pretended to be modest and said, "Oh, not at all, you flatter me too much. I've already set my goal. As a member of Liangzhou, I plan to stay in Liangzhou and apply to Liangzhou University." In fact, his decision to apply to Liangzhou University was a spur-of-the-moment idea. Xiang Beifei's usual grades were not as good as his, but his score in the college entrance exam had surpassed him, which annoyed him. He knew that Xiang Beifei's only chance to apply to a prestigious university was Liangzhou University. So he would choose Liangzhou University himself. Xiang Beifei was bound to be eliminated by Liangzhou University during the entrance exam, but his current condition meant whichever prestigious university he chose, he was essentially a prospective student there. A score of 581 got into Liangzhou University. 732 got rejected. What a contrast! As a grade S high achiever, he then appeared even more dazzling. Many nodded slightly in approval of Zhuo Jing's words. Zhuo Jing eyed Xiang Beifei haughtily. So what if you're the valedictorian or the top original scorer? My score of 581 will still crush your future. It will still steal your limelight. It will still divert everyone's attention from you to me. Jealous, aren't you? Haha. Not only did I complete the system task, but I also overshadowed the valedictorian and earned lots of appreciation value. Awesome. Zhuo Jing hummed a little tune in his heart. Now it was time to claim the system rewards. He happily looked at the system interface, at the double appreciation card and the piercing strike cultivation technique. Then he clicked claim reward. 1 minute later. Where's my system reward? Zhuo Jing suddenly petrified on the spot. Damn it, system. You've swallowed my reward again. Zhuo Jing felt dizzy and almost passed out. Although Zhuo Jing was a grade S awakener, he had only been awakened for 2 months, and his cultivation was still in the initial phase of qi controlling. Thus, both the piercing strike and double appreciation card were also designed for the initial phase of qi controlling. Xiang Beifei wouldn't even care about such rewards, but he accepted them nonetheless. The reason was simple: delight. If someone he had no qualms with mistakenly took a reward, he would return it. To those who treated him well, he would respect them and try his best to help them. But for those who sought trouble on him, who bullied him up front, there was no need to be polite. If he couldn't use it, he could feed it to a dog. Xiaohei, being a snowy white little puppy, happily swallowed both items, turning them into spiritual qi crystals and collecting them. Damn it, system! Damn it, system! Zhuo Jing nearly went mad, still unaware of what had happened, because the system had malfunctioned before, so he still thought it had crashed today. If not for the crowd, he would have cursed his system publicly. He probably didn't even realize that his reward had truly ended up in the paws of a little puppy. Because of Zhuo Jing's words, many no longer envied Xiang Beifei, the school valedictorian, and their attention gradually shifted to other grade S students, which actually relieved Xiang Beifei. He didn't like being surrounded by people. The crowd quickly dispersed, and other school leaders went to congratulate other students. Only Principal Li Nanxing was still there, and his expectation for Xiang Beifei hadn't lessened at all. Li Nanxing mentioned the wilderness beyond the domain, and his expression turned serious. The wilderness beyond the domain is located outside the territory of Jiuzhou, filled with various dangerous and powerful desolate beasts, fierce and terrifying. The pioneer's task is to eliminate the desolate beasts in a region, and then expand the territory of Jiuzhou, securing more living space for humanity. This is a rather daunting task because desolate beasts cannot be easily eliminated. Instead, the pioneers are more likely to be besieged and killed by the desolate beasts. This is also why the status of the pioneers is very esteemed. They struggle for the living space of humanity, almost staking their lives on it. In Jiuzhou, if one's cultivation has not reached the meridian opening realm, they are generally not allowed to go to the wilderness beyond the domain because for someone at the qi-controlling realm, going there is practically akin to courting death. I don't understand what those people at Liangzhou University are thinking. They actually set up such an admission assessment. Li Nanxing spoke discontentedly, clearly displaying the message, refuse N-level awakeners from entering the school, for everyone to see. But he was just a high school principal and had no influence over the affairs of Liangzhou University. No matter how unfair he felt, he couldn't do anything about it. Of course, you don't need to worry. You haven't reached the qi-controlling phase yet, so the assessment they set for you should be in a simulation training field. Elite universities have simulation training facilities, after all, Li Nanxing said. Xiang Beifei fell into deep thought. An admission assessment, is it to enter the wilderness beyond the domain? His parents had gone to the wilderness beyond the domain and never returned. What exactly was that place like? He had never been there. This world is closely related to the wilderness beyond the domain, yet the portion of it Xiang Beifei had seen was still just the tip of the iceberg. The high school graduation exam results, one by one, came out at Luhe High School. There were those who rejoiced and those who were disappointed. Some scored 300 points, others 400 points. Each person wore a different expression. Currently, the highest score is by Shen Yu, who has awakened the S-rank Scholar God system and scored 667 without any added points, from Class 1. At this time, Kong Shouwen's results also appeared. Kong Shouwen, S-rank, Language 101, Mathematics 103, Comprehensive 191, Introduction to Defense of Jiuzhou 118, total 513. Kong Shouwen was overjoyed beyond expectation. Ah! I scored 500. He desperately tugged at his hair. For the sake of scoring 500, he had put all his effort into it, exchanging all the hair he could collect for system rewards to boost his intelligence. Finally seeing some returns. 513 plus 50 points, 563 points. Securing a place in an elite university was no problem at all. Congratulations, Xiang Beifei said. Thanks. I didn't think I would perform beyond expectations. Kong Xiuwen was very excited, but soon he restrained his excitement and asked, How sure are you? Last time you said we would go to Liangzhou University together. I've done it, now it's your turn. Don't disappoint me. Let's wait for the results, Xiang Beifei said. Son, you did it. A chubby, middle-aged man squeezed through the crowd. His figure was robust, easily pushing through the bustling crowd, and he swept Kong Xiuwen into an excited hug, nearly knocking him over with his round belly. This was Kong Xiuwen's father, Kong Daming. Host, Kong Daming. S-Rank, Gluttonous Feast System. Realm, Early Meridian Opening. Kong Daming was in the catering business. His culinary skills were extraordinary. Even a simple cabbage could be cooked to make mouths water. Dad, keep it down, keep it down. Kong Xiuwen covered his belly in pain from the bump, but he couldn't hide his excitement as his father's large hands rubbed his head vigorously. Hello, Uncle Kong. Xiang Beifei greeted politely. Haha. Good, good. Beifei, it has been a long time since I saw you. Kong Daming laughed heartily, then turned to greet Xiang Qingde. Is the old man in good health? Doing well, congratulations. Daming, Xiang Qingde managed a smile. Haha. Thank you, thank you. My Xiuwen is promising. By the way, have Beifei's results come out yet? Kong Daming asked. They should be coming out soon, Xiang Qingde replied. Xiang Qingde couldn't help but recall the paper with only 43 points. Sighing internally. Beifei, you have to work hard. The two of you have been together since childhood. Always in the same class. I hope you can be together in university as well, Kong Daming said cheerfully. Hopefully, Xiang Qingde could only say, his heart sighing once more. Kong Xiuwen was an S-Rank awakener. Scoring 500 and getting into an elite university was practically assured. Gauge's originally smug expression instantly froze. His pupils contracted, and his eyes revealed endless horror. This guy, he actually ignored his own system rules? Normally, his unparalleled chess player system was a very powerful rule-based system ability. If someone wanted to defeat him, they had to play by the rules of his system. Just now, Gauge had used the system rules to trap Xiang Beifei, treating the Twisted Ghost Panthers as two knights on the chessboard. This meant that if Xiang Beifei wanted to deal with his Twisted Ghost Panthers, he had to do it in the manner of killing knights. But Xiang Beifei didn't play by the rules at all. He simply punched and killed the two mid-god refining stage Twisted Ghost Panthers. Not only that, but he actually snatched the two beast pills of the Twisted Ghost Panthers. This infuriated Gauge extremely, because these two Twisted Ghost Panthers were his most powerful reliance and were firmly bound to him. Normally, even if they were killed, the beast pills would rapidly be retrieved and couldn't possibly be snatched by someone else. However, for some reason, Xiang Beifei forcefully snatched his two beast pills. The alliance was gathering information on Xiang Beifei, and unrestrained naturally would not miss out. Practically everyone in Juzhou was interested in Xiang Beifei, investigating his abilities from all sides, especially the video revealed that day. A countless number of people had studied the segments of him taking action many times over. They all thought that he had been mentored by the powerful spiritual power system awakener, Luo Yunxian, so they definitely possessed strong spiritual power, which is why they specifically made defenses against spiritual power. They even came up with such an extremely hardcore way to defend against it. But these people did not understand at all that the strong spiritual power was just the tip of the iceberg he had shown. Even for Elder Luo, his strength lay not just in his spiritual power, but in his comprehensive combat power. Otherwise, those UR-level awakeners would not have gathered to figure out a method to counteract the spiritual power to deal with Elder Luo. But up until now, Elder Luo was still someone many top officials of the Alliance dared not provoke. Unforgivable! Gauge roared. I was thinking of seeing what special qualities you've developed over these 6 months apart from your greatly increased cultivation. But you've really disappointed me. Xiang Beifei tossed aside the beast pills in his hand, lightly shook his head, and said, "Let's just deal with you first." "You underestimate." Gao Zhuo furiously waved his hand, preparing to gather another desolate beast to face Xiang Beifei. However, before he could finish his words, he suddenly felt a whooshing sound in the air and then a thud, as if his head was violently smashed with a plank. He didn't even have time to react. Golden patterns quickly lit up and entered his body. His eyes rolled back, and his body stiffly fell to the ground. Woof woof! Xiaohe proudly stood on the plank, paws on hips, looking utterly triumphant. Using its innate ability of invisibility, knocking someone out from behind was its forte. It seems planks are effective against humans, too. Xiang Beifei confirmed this. Behind him, Shen Tongtong was dumbfounded. She stared incredulously at the tall figure standing in front of her, her mind filled with that name. Xiang Beifei. It really was Xiang Beifei. Is it him? Is it really him? Grandpa? Shen Tongtong asked in a daze. Xiang Beifei was the person she most admired. She chose Liangzhou University this year because she was so inspired by the legendary tales of this genius senior. Tong Tong, you were saved. Shen Jinrong's bleeding had stopped, and though he looked extremely gruesome and was still in great pain, he was overwhelmed with tears of joy. Although he didn't know why Xiang Beifei suddenly appeared here, his presence meant that his granddaughter was saved. Tong Tong, you must live to return home. Shen Jinrong, becoming weaker, soon fell unconscious. But his last thought was that his granddaughter was saved, and by that legendary genius no less. As long as his granddaughter could survive, he would have no regrets even if he lost his life. Grandpa, please don't let anything happen. Shen Tongtong tightly hugged the now unconscious Shen Jinrong, looking at Xiang Beifei and murmuring to herself. So, do you still make friends? Xiang Beifei turned toward Hua Jiyue. This guy was obviously even more troublesome. When Hua Jiyue saw the golden patterns on Gao Zhuo's body light up, she also frowned slightly, and instead of directly helping Gao Zhuo block like before, she swiftly retreated, increasing the distance between herself and Gao Zhuo. Trade. We must trade. I think we can be close friends. Hua Jiyue's smile did not lessen, and her gaze at Xiang Beifei turned even more fervent, like a fanatic fan who had just met an idol, eager to rush over and embrace them. However, just then, a huge tail descended from the sky, violently slamming toward her head. The wooden Kirin's tail was like a fly swatter. As it pressed down, it was powerful enough to flatten a mountain. It locked down any escape route for Hua Jiyue, its formidable presence leaving no room for her to dodge. But Hua Jiyue seemed not to panic at all. She was like a slippery snake. Though the presence locked her in, her body twisted and she managed to wriggle out from under the wooden Kirin's oppression, her surrounding space rippling as she disappeared on the spot. Boom! The wooden Kirin's fly-swatter-like tail smashed onto the ground, turning the entire forest into a mess, with the ground rumbling and cracking open to form a huge trench. Exciting! This is so exciting! Hua Jiyue excitedly appeared atop a treetop, her long tongue sticking out, lashing about. Her mental state appeared very deranged, like a lunatic on steroids. Roar! Roar! The wooden Kirin, missing its hit, let out a ghostly howl and again swung its tail toward Hua Jiyue. But this time Hua Jiyue was prepared. She opened her mouth, and suddenly her tongue also stretched out, the scarlet tongue like a giant snake, growing longer in the wind, and powerfully collided with the tail coming down from the sky. Bang! Terrifying waves swept outward from directly above her, rippling out, intertwining red and blue lights. The wild aura instantly shredded all the trees within miles. The huge tongue actually managed to smack the wooden Kirin's giant tail away, flipping the wooden Kirin off into the distance, crashing into the ground and forming a large pit. Fun! Come on, let's do it again. Hua Jiyue's tongue swung about in the air, excitedly shouting. It's unclear why, Despite her long tongue sticking out, her voice was still so clear. Roar! The wooden Kirin, infuriated by its failure, burst out from the large pit. It didn't expect that someone other than Xiang Beifei could strike it, and immediately let out a furious roar. Buzz! From the soil on the ground, numerous huge vines sprung up, thick with thorns, twisting and turning, each segment of their branches oozing with toxin, all of them entwining rapidly towards Hua Jue. These vines were from plant seeds hidden beneath the wilderness soil of the domain, and even if miles of the forest and mountains were wiped out, they would still remain embedded deep underground. The greatest strength of the wooden Kirin lay in its control over all plants, causing an excessive growth to initiate attacks. The plants of the outer domain were formidable. Many of them thrived by capturing desolate beasts for nutrients, their lethal prowess not even weaker than some desolate beasts, so under the control of the wooden Kirin, they could also unleash significant combat strength. The air was already enveloped by a purple fog. Its intense corrosive nature spread across the entire area, forming a vast whirlwind that suddenly swept toward Hua Jue. However, Hua Jue's tongue was rippling in the air, appearing to have suction cups, emitting a powerful sucking force, shaking vigorously. The scarlet huge tongue actually began to devour all the purple poison fog. Delicious! Is there more? Strangely fluctuating waves radiated from the surface of Hua Jue's tongue, which even alarmed the wooden Kirin. But before she could revel in her victory, Xiang Beifei had already appeared above her, grabbed the scarlet tongue, and with a forceful pull, swung her around like a meteor hammer, fiercely smashing her toward the ground. Boom! Xiang Beifei was too familiar with handling attacks akin to a fly swatter. Dealing with such big things, he just had to swing them around for a beating. Hua Jue hadn't expected Xiang Beifei to handle her in such a way, or even that Xiang Beifei possessed such immense strength. When she was swung around, she hadn't had time to react and was smashed back and forth like a mallet. Not knowing at all how to be tender to a woman, Hua Jue's voice echoed around. She still didn't seem very flustered. The suction cups on her tongue rapidly opened, shooting streams of red mucus towards Xiang Beifei's arm. This mucus possessed a strong, devouring essence, gushing onto Xiang Beifei's hands in an instant, attempting to corrode his arm away. However, spiritual power surged quickly on Xiang Beifei's arm. Subsequently, exploding flames spread cleverly into the suction cups on Hua Jue's tongue, drilling in through the pores. Puffed, puffed. Hua Jue's tongue, after devouring Xiang Beifei's flames, immediately showed a slight change in complexion. These strange flames rampaged inside her tongue, causing it to seem cooked, hissing white smoke quickly emerging from each suction cup hole. Hua Jue was also very decisive. She stretched out her slender finger, which flicked out a sharp light, directly severing her own long tongue. Hiss! The severed tongue immediately caught fire, also emitting the scent of roasted skewers. When Li Nanxing mentioned the outer wilderness, his expression became serious. The outer wilderness, beyond the territories of Jiuzhou, was filled with various dangerous and powerful desolate beasts, ferocious and terrifying. The task of the pioneers was to eliminate the desolate beasts in a region and then expand the territory of Jiuzhou, securing more living space for humanity. This was a daunting task, as desolate beasts were not so easily eliminated. Instead, pioneers were more likely to be surrounded and killed by them. This was why the profession of a pioneer held such a high status. They fought for human living space, almost as though their lives hung by their belts. In Jiuzhou, if one had not reached the Meridian Opening Realm, they were generally not allowed to go to the outer wilderness because for those in the Qi-controlling realm, going to the outer wilderness was akin to courting death. I don't understand what those people at Liangzhou University were thinking. They actually set up such an entrance examination. Li Nanxing said discontentedly, clearly indicating that this was a way to signal, refusing N-level awakeners at the school. But he was just a high school principal and could not influence the affairs of Liangzhou University, and as unfair as he felt it was, he could do nothing about it. Of course, you don't need to worry. You are not yet in the Qi-controlling stage, so the test they have set for you should be in the simulation training field. Elite universities have simulation training facilities, That's what they would do, Li Nanxing said. Xiang Beifei fell into deep thought. The entry examination, was it to enter the outer wilderness? His parents had gone to the outer wilderness and then had never returned. He had never been to that place himself. This world was closely related to the outer wilderness, yet what Xiang Beifei had seen so far was still just the tip of the iceberg. The scores for Luhe High School's college entrance exam students were released one by one. Some were happy, some were dejected. There were scores of 300 and scores of 400. Everyone had a different expression. The current highest scorer, named Xinyu, had awakened the S-level scholar god system and scored 667 points without extra credits from Class 1. At this time, Kong Shouwen's results also came out. Kong Shouwen, S-level, Language Arts 101, Mathematics 103, Comprehensive Subjects 191, Introduction to Defense of Jizhou 118, total 513. Kong Shouwen was ecstatic. Ah! I scored 500 points. He desperately pulled his own hair, having striven these days to reach 500 points, even exchanging all the fallen hair he had collected for rewards from the intelligence-enhancing system. Finally, it paid off. 513 plus 50 points. 563 points. Getting into an elite university was totally no problem. Congratulations, Xiang Beifei said. Thanks. I didn't expect to perform beyond my expectations. Kong Shouwen was extremely excited, but quickly suppressed his excitement and asked, "How confident are you? Last time you said we should go to Liangzhou University together. I have done my part, and now I am waiting for you. You have to live up to my expectations." "Let's talk when the results come out," Xiang Beifei said. "My boy, you did it." A chubby, middle-aged man squeezed through the crowd. His figure was sturdy, directly pushing through the crowd, and excitedly embraced Kong Shouwen, his round belly almost knocking Kong Shouwen over. This was Kong Shouwen's father, Kong Daming. Host, Kong Daming. S-level, gluttonous feast system. Realm, early meridian opening. Kong Daming was in the catering business. His culinary skills were divine. He could even make a simple cabbage dish irresistible. "Dad, show some restraint, some restraint." Kong Shouwen covered his belly, which was hurt from the collision, but he could hardly hide his excitement, allowing his father's huge palms to rub all over his head. "Uncle Kong, hello?" Xiang Beifei greeted politely. "Haha. Hello, hello, Xiaofei. I haven't seen you in a long time," Kong Daming said, merrily laughing. Turning his head to greet Xiang Qingde, "How's the old man doing?" "He's doing well. Congratulations, Daming," Xiang Qingde said with a forced smile. "Haha. Thank you, thank you. My Xiwen has made us proud. By the way, have Xiaofei's results come out yet?" Kong Daming asked. "They should be out soon." Xiang Qingde couldn't help but think of that 43-point paper and sighed silently. "Xiaofei, you need to work harder. You two have played together since childhood, have always been in the same class, and I hope you can go to university together too," Kong Daming said cheerily. "Hopefully." Xiang Qingde could only say that much, sighing inwardly again. Kong Shouwen was an S-level awakener, and scoring 500 points allowed him to enter any elite university, but Xiang Beifei was rated N-level and his scores were poor. "Haha. That's great. To celebrate my son's excellent results, I'm closing the business tonight to prepare a celebration feast. Old man, you guys should come too." Kong Daming used to be classmates with Xiang Tianqing, and since the accident, he often took care of the grandfather and grandson, always telling them that eating at his restaurant was free. However, Xiang Qingde's family rarely accepted. Although their income was not high, they did not like to accept handouts. Kong Daming was aware of this, so he changed his approach, often sending meat to Xiang Qingde's home for them to cook themselves. In order not to make Xiang Qingde feel obliged, he symbolically charged a minimal cost for the meals. Recently, during Xiang Beifei's college entrance exam period, the nourishing ingredients Xiang Qingde bought were all from Kong Daming. "Congratulations! Great, Kong Shouwen. I knew you had a bright future." Yang Hua appeared timely at the scene, loudly praising Kong Xiuwen, who had also brought him a 563 teachers prestige value, which was a hefty sum. Kong Xiuwen was not fond of Yang Hua. Before his awakening system, he and Xiang Beifei had both been subjects of criticism. However, once he awakened the S-class system, Yang Hua's attitude toward him had changed drastically. Kong Xiuwen was also a straightforward person. He did not like people like Yang Hua. But Kong Daming was unaware of these issues. With the teacher coming to congratulate, it was natural for him to respond politely, "Haha. Thank you, Professor Yang. I also have to thank Professor Yang's nurturance." "Oh, not at all. I had seen from the beginning that Kong Xiuwen was a student full of potential. I'm not surprised at all by his achievements," Yang Hua said with a smile. Kong Xiuwen rolled his eyes continuously at the side. "Nurturance, my ass. He scored so high solely because of the help from his system and his own efforts of studying late into the night. It had nothing to do with Yang Hua. If it weren't for his awakening of the S-class system, Yang Hua would probably be singing a different tune. That was probably what they meant by fair-weather friend." Yang Hua glanced at Xiang Qingde and his grandson, then said to Kong Daming, "Excellent students should be like Kong Xiuwen, diligent and striving, not complacent. However, it's also important with whom one associates. Excellent people should be with other more excellent individuals." I had told Kong Xiuwen this before. Kong Daming, who was usually busy with business, didn't really understand Yang Hua's implication and asked, "What do you mean by that, Professor Yang?" "Nothing much, just speaking my mind. With Kong Xiuwen's current grade, getting into an elite university is no problem. He will be able to associate with even more excellent people. Your son will definitely be successful. Congratulations. Congratulations. I need to check other students' scores as well, so I won't interrupt your father-son celebration anymore." Yang Hua waved his hand and couldn't bother to deal with Xiang Qingde and Xiang Beifei anymore, completely ignoring them. "Don't take his words to heart. You can definitely do it." Kong Xiuwen came over to Xiang Beifei to boost his morale. But Kong Xiuwen didn't really have confidence himself. Getting into an elite university wasn't difficult for him, but for Xiang Beifei, it was a significant challenge, and until now, he had no idea how much Xiang Beifei had improved. Xiang Beifei didn't explain much, but Xiang Qingde felt increasingly uneasy after hearing Yang Hua's words. Xiang Beifei looked at Wang Dan, lost in thought. The assessment system of the Awakener's world was perhaps just, but not fair. The 9 elite universities were not very friendly to N-class Awakeners. Not only do N-classes not receive extra points, the entry thresholds were high and required special entrance exams. Except for Liangzhou University, the other 8 elite universities even outright rejected them. If it had been an S-class or R-class, a score of 601 would have been more than enough to get into any of the 9 elite universities. Even Kong Xiuwen's 513 score could get in. But the world of systems was peculiar with its own rules of survival. To live better in this world, the talent of the system was extremely important. Higher talent Awakeners completed system tasks faster, an undeniable fact. Special schools having special requirements for admissions was actually quite normal, applicable everywhere. For example, clinical medicine would not allow those with infectious diseases, and those with a stutter are unsuitable for a teaching profession. The 9 elite universities need to cultivate the top talents for the Zheozhou Alliance, reserving resources for the Alliance, so it's reasonable for them to set high selection standards. After all, in this world, academic performance was just one aspect of reference. What's decisive was the system talent. Yang Hua was happily counting his prestige value as his class's academic scores were mostly in. Currently, the highest scorer in his class was not S-class Zhuo Jing, but Wang Dan, who had awakened the N-class flower cultivation system. She scored 601. Wang Dan also seemed very excited. Since her system was about cultivating flowers, she was planning to apply to a university specializing in agriculture and forestry. Good, not bad. Very good. Yang Hua congratulated Wang Dan loudly. He was all smiles, treating Wang Dan very kindly, having gained another 601 points of teacher's prestige value. However, many remembered that 2 months after awakening her system, Wang Dan was neglected by Yang Hua, Even her seat was moved to the back. And when Wang Dan asked questions in class, he appeared impatient. All because Wang Dan was an N-class awakener. But Yang Hua didn't bother with these. As long as it could bring him benefits, it was all good, and he could definitely afford to praise it, having no problem with a complete 180-degree change in attitude. This child. I hope he can achieve something in the future. Although he's only N-level, his genes come from Xiang Tianqing. There's only a slim hope of him getting into Liangzhou University this year. Let's see if there's any hope next year or the year after. Li Nanxing didn't really expect Beifei to bring him any prestige value. To tell the truth, he thought that relying on Beifei to boost his prestige was even less likely than relying on those S-level students. But the reason he came to encourage Beifei was largely because of Tianqing. That day, when Beifei was consulting the selection system in his office, Li Nanxing felt as if he could see Tianqing's shadow in Beifei. Just then, a voice came from the side. "Professor Yang, how can you belittle a student like that?" Li Nanxing walked over from the crowd, looking seriously at Yang Hua. "Principal." Upon seeing Li Nanxing, Yang Hua's arrogant demeanor paused, and he quickly put on a smiling face to greet him. Li Nanxing had also come to see the students' results. Such a major event naturally couldn't proceed without the principal, but he unintentionally heard the conversation here and had to speak out. As a teacher, one should teach without discrimination, striving to discover each student's strengths instead of casually defining a student. In front of other parents, belittling their child, is that something a teacher should do? Li Nanxing scolded. Yang Hua didn't dare to respond, but inside, he still felt disdainful. What good could there be in a student like Beifei? I was just telling the truth. He simply couldn't make it to college. Li Nanxing turned to face Xiang Qingde with an apologetic expression and said, "I'm sorry." Professor Yang was just anxious waiting for the results and spoke out of turn. "As the principal, it's my neglect for not managing my own teachers properly. I apologize to you for this. Please don't take it to heart." "Not at all." Xiang Qingde was somewhat flattered. He knew that Principal Li was at least a meridian opening stage individual, with high cultivation and status. It was rare for someone of his stature to humble himself and apologize. Li Nanxing said, "You're Beifei's grandfather, right? Rest assured, I am quite optimistic about Beifei. I know his college entrance exam performance this year might not have been ideal, but that's okay. If Beifei wants to retake the year, I will arrange a class for him." However, he snorted coldly in his heart. Forget next year, even if Beifei got 10 years, he still might not have a chance to get into college. Xiang Qingde went on and on, advising Beifei. "Grandpa seems really nervous?" Beifei said. Xiang Qingde said, "This is a big matter in your life, of course. Grandpa is nervous." He knew Beifei's grades were poor, even disastrously so, and with an N-level awakening system, his prospects were bleak. But since the awakening system arrived 2 months ago, Beifei had changed as if he were a different person, becoming very diligent, and this gave him a glimmer of hope. Normally, others couldn't see Xiaohei, but because he was tempted by the delicious food, he thought about getting on the table, so he allowed Xiang Qingde to see him to avoid the eerie sight of meat disappearing into thin air. Beifei simply said it was brought by his own system, and Xiang Qingde didn't suspect anything, so he agreed to let it on the table and also prepared a small bowl for it. Xiaohei smacked his lips and belched contentedly. The dinner was plain yet pleasant. Xiang Qingde still waited for Beifei to finish eating before he started. Beifei still only ate half of his portion, leaving the other half for his grandfather. Life was impoverished, yet it was warm. Beifei liked this kind of life. Bang! Hua Jue's body fell to the ground, kicking up a cloud of dust. Confusion and bewilderment lingered in her eyes. To her death, she couldn't understand why Xiang Beifei had been so decisive, striking without hesitation. She had thought that after Xiang Beifei captured her, he would at least interrogate her about some matters, or at the very least ask why she was there and what her purposes were. After all, she had revealed her unrestrained identity. If Xiang Beifei really wanted to investigate the unrestrained, he likely wouldn't have killed her so readily. But Xiang Beifei did not hold back. He struck to kill immediately, He truly resorted to a hardcore heart-to-heart approach. Playing psychological tricks with me, you're thinking too much. Against those who were cunning and sought to probe his secrets, Xiang Beifei never showed mercy. Hua Jiyue was no ordinary woman. She was just an R-level awakener. Yet she possessed the realm of late-stage god refining, and her methods were unbelievably powerful. When she made her move, it was plainly with the intention of studying Xiang Beifei's abilities. When hit by the brick, she didn't fall but could still speak, which was enough to denote her exceptional nature. Xiang Beifei understood clearly. Given how calm Hua Jiyue was despite being captured, she certainly had an escape ace up her sleeve, which likely gave her the confidence to negotiate and probably came from that golden cage. Just now, Hua Jiyue's clothes had shattered, but the golden cage still withstood the power of return to the original state, seemingly rippling with a bizarre fluctuation that protected her from it. Normally, Xiang Beifei intended to capture the unrestrained himself and use their system logs to discover any secrets of these unrestrained members. But Hua Jiyue's system log had been stagnant for half a year. She had not undertaken any missions for 6 months. Elder Luo once said, "The unrestrained protect their secrets with their lives." Then keeping this unrestrained alive was pointless. It was simpler to kill her. There was no need to waste that time. Hua Jiyue's heart was excavated, and without any hesitation, Xiang Beifei's spiritual power surged into her body, covering all her breaths while he searched for her soul. But soon he frowned. This person, she doesn't have a soul? She had the cultivation of the God-refining stage but lacked the soul that should accompany it. This was nothing like a normal system awakener. Indeed very odd. Xiang Beifei pondered slightly. The reason he had decisively killed Hua Jiyue was because her situation was very similar to someone else encountered before. That old woman who appeared at the Greedy Bowl Embrace Moon Desolate Beast Wholesale Market. Back then, that old woman awakened the tailoring system, and her system had also been inactive for months, with a lengthy period where she had not continued her missions. Yet, her strength was excessively strong. Strictly speaking, the old woman couldn't even be considered human, because there was a beast pill in her heart. Xiang Beifei stared at the heart he had extracted from Hua Jiyue's chest, which was much larger than that of an ordinary person, seemingly stretched with much thicker blood vessels, all different from ordinary people. A slight tremor of spiritual power, and the heart cracked open. A white beast pill revealed itself from within the heart. As expected, it was exactly the same as the beast pill found in the one-armed crab's heart from the street attack. After the white beast pill left her heart, her system interface also vanished. What exactly is this person's background? Implanting a desolate beast pill into a human heart? Was unrestrained conducting some experiment with beasts and humans? He recalled that old woman who had awakened an N-level tailoring system. With just one beast pill, her cultivation had reached the late stage of meridian opening. And this Hua Jiyue only awakened an R-level system, yet her cultivation had reached late-stage god refining. Could it be that the S-level Qin Hongyi, was he also relying on the beast pill in his heart to forcibly elevate his cultivation to the orifice-transforming stage? Then, how did they skip the process of soul cultivation? Xiang Beifei looked at Hua Jiyue's body, searched on her for a moment, and could only find a cage at her waist, lacking any specific identifiers that could expose her identity, exceptionally clean throughout. Then he remembered, he seemed to have just dispersed her clothes with return to the original state. I was careless. Xiang Beifei felt somewhat regretful, but fortunately, another person had been left behind. He turned his head to look at Gao Zhuo, who had previously been kidnapped in the Withering Forest. Gao Zhuo was still being smacked around by the wooden Kirin, and to prevent Gao Zhuo from escaping, he decided to subdue this guy first. Xiang Beifei flicked his hand, and the brick flew toward Zhuo, hitting Gao Zhuo squarely on the head. Already dazed by the wooden Kirin's battering, Gao Zhuo was struck by the brick and immediately fell unconscious again. The wooden Kirin had been quite pleased with itself, not noticing that Gao Zhuo's body was once again enveloped by golden patterns. It swung its tail again but carelessly hit Gao Zhuo. Thud! The golden patterns spread from Gao Zhuo's body to the wooden Kirin. The Kirin's eyes rolled back as it collapsed onto Gaozhua. Woof woof! Xiaohei burst out laughing. What a fool! Xiang Beifei couldn't be bothered with this silly creature and walked toward Gaozhua. The reason he had spared Gaozhua's life was that Gaozhua was weaker and easier to deal with. It was natural to negotiate with someone who couldn't escape. But most importantly, Xiang Beifei had to figure out why he had come out of such a place as the Outer Domain Wastelands and even joined unrestrained. If Gaozhua could come out, what about the others who were captured? Gaozhua's cultivation had reached the mid-stage of God refining, not as powerful as Qin Hongyi and Hua Jiyue. But did he also have a beast pill in his heart? There was still an ice cone embedded in Gaozhua's chest, reminding him to fend off attacks with his heart. Thus, he stabbed his heart with the cone, effectively blocking the spiritual power impact. This indicated that his heart was definitely not ordinary. Xiang Beifei had preserved the white beast pill that he had extracted from Hua Jiyue's heart, and then he approached Gaozhua, ready to explore if there was an abnormal fluctuation in Gaozhua's heart as well. He squatted down, and his spiritual power traveled along the ice cone on Gaozhua's chest, penetrating into his body. Indeed, a fluctuation from a beast pill transmitted back. This guy needs to be dissected by Elder Luo. The last time Gaozhua had been captured by Ghost Whiskers of Remnant Visage, and now he appeared here lively and kicking, was definitely not by chance. Xiang Beifei examined Gaozhua's body and even retrieved a golden cage from him, then apprehended him. After confirming that everything was correct, he turned to lift the wooden Kirin off Gaozhua to help it regain consciousness. Era looked infuriated as it roared at Xiang Beifei. It had intended to attack Gaozhua but ended up knocking itself out as well. It's your own fault for being silly. Xiang Beifei flicked Era's forehead and then walked over to Shen Tongtong to look at her system interface. The beast language system enabled communication with desolate beasts and was crucial for pioneers in any team because she could assess risks for the team through her interactions with the desolate beasts. Unlike Xiang Beifei's learn by analogy, if Xiang Beifei wanted to learn a language, he needed cooperation from the other party. Creatures like Xiaohei and Era, which were intelligent, could understand Xiang Beifei's words and then translate them into roars or barks. Xiang Beifei had so far grasped all languages of canine species and Kirin species. It wasn't clear if these counted as actual languages, for Era had made it clear it was not a wolf, although it always howled like one. Nonetheless, since wolves belonged to the Canidae family, Xiang Beifei hadn't understood them initially. Shin Tongtong's beast language system allowed her to learn a beast language by capturing a cub. The system would interpret the desolate beast sounds, ultrasonic waves, dancing, and other vocal or behavioral languages to understand the beast's intentions. She was a specialist in this area, not needing the beasts to cooperate but only to observe. The system would help her synthesize the meanings, so she knew more beast languages than Xiang Beifei. Were Gaozhua and Hua Jiyue targeting Shin Tongtong because they valued her ability to communicate with desolate beasts? Grandpa! Shin Tongtong was still holding her grandfather's body, crying regretfully, appearing helpless. She was just a rookie who had recently awakened her system. Besides being able to converse with desolate beasts, she lacked the means to heal. Shin Jinrong's body was only half intact. Although the bleeding had stopped, his injuries were severe, and he was unconscious. Can you save my grandpa? Can you save him? Shin Tongtong asked through her sobs. Step back. Xiang Beifei gestured for Shin Tongtong to move away and then squatted down to assess the injuries, pondering over them. Fortunately, the severed limbs were still there. During the battle with Hua Jiyue, he had protected them. Otherwise, it might have required more effort. Shin Tongtong carefully put down Shin Jinrong's upper body and then anxiously stepped back. Xiang Beifei released the aura of return to the original state, covering Shin Jinrong. He had never tried using return to the original state for healing before, but he knew it could change the state of the body. Previously, when his cultivation was insufficient, forcibly using return to the original state would cause his body's channels to revert to their pre-opened state. But this also meant that he could revert an injured body back to its pre-injured state. The aura from return to the original state, emitting a unique essence, quickly settled on Shan Jinrong. Xiang Beifei was much more cautious this time, Unlike his unrestrained attack on Huajue, an excessive return could directly shatter the cells, causing even more severe consequences. Under Xiang Beifei's guidance, this essence rapidly began to work on Shen Jinrong's wounds. The wounds quickly started to heal, and the severed arms and lower body, under the effect of returning to the original state, swiftly reconnected. Xiang Beifei needed to precisely control the extent of the return to the original state, deciding not to exceed the limit. He only reverted to an hour before. As the injuries healed, Shen Jinrong quickly regained consciousness. He sat up, surprised, moved his body, checked his shoulders, and looked down at his waist. Unharmed. I'm healed. Shen Jinrong incredulously examined his injuries. There wasn't a single wound on his body. Not bad. Xiang Beifei was fairly satisfied, at least confirming that return to the original state indeed had the capability to heal injuries in some sense. Please support the authorized version on Qidian. There are gift coins available to claim. Watch a 15-second video advertisement each day to get 10 gift coins, with a maximum of 50 gift coins per day. And it only costs 5 gift coins per 1,000 words, which isn't much money, and authors do earn income from these coin subscriptions. When a desolate beast eats the brain of another desolate beast, sometimes it can acquire the memories of the consumed creature, meaning it digests everything that the other desolate beast saw and heard. If this green-haired caterpillar was squashed by Long Guocheng, it means the caterpillar witnessed Xiang Beifei and the others. Even if the caterpillar cannot understand human language, the images it saw would still remain imprinted in its brain. So, what exactly did they say when they encountered the green-haired caterpillar? And did the caterpillar remember it? Consuming the brains of other desolate beasts to compensate for their own deficiencies and expand their knowledge means that the more they eat, the higher the wisdom these beasts will attain. A powerful but simple-minded desolate beast is not scary, but those with high intelligence are truly terrifying. As of now, it's unclear what sort of impression the green-haired caterpillar, which was killed by Long Guocheng, retained about them. Li Zimu's stone hut had many rooms built up. Everyone chose separate rooms. There were no beds, no blankets, though it was simple. There was no need for such luxuries in the wilderness beyond civilized domains. When Xiang Beifei returned from his shift, Long Guocheng was leaning against the door with his arms crossed, asking, "Can I ask you a question?" "What?" Xiang Beifei replied. "You're not an N-level awakener, right? You must be at least SR, right? Is that very important to you?" "It would make me feel better," Long Guocheng said reluctantly. If he lost to SR-level Li Zimu, it wouldn't embarrass him too much since the other's talent was equal to his. Since they were both SR, if he lost this time, he could win the next time. But losing to an N-level awakener would always stick in his craw. "That's your own problem, it has nothing to do with me." Xiang Beifei did not like explaining his system to others, because he simply didn't have one. "We're a team. I've told you about my abilities, but we know nothing about yours. As a team, there should be mutual understanding," Long Guocheng emphasized. "So you're admitting you're part of a team now? I thought you always liked to hog the limelight," Xiang Beifei said. Long Guocheng snorted but didn't refute the claim. He did indeed like to steal the spotlight because without it, he couldn't collect system points. "If you tell me you're SR or SSR, I'd accept my defeat gracefully," Long Guocheng stated. "So you look down on people with a system level lower than yours? What's wrong with N level? Or R level? Or S level? Other than cultivating higher levels, in what way are their character, morals, or behavior inferior to yours? Why do you scorn them? Do you enjoy feeling superior over those with lower systems so much?" Xiang. He looked down on those whose talent was inferior to his, because in his view, those people would never amount to anything, especially the lowly N-level awakeners. He only revered the strong. Yet, his pride was always shattered to pieces when he faced Xiang Beifei. In his heart, he hoped that Xiang Beifei's system was at least SR level or even SSR so he could accept his defeat without his pride being tarnished, maintaining the principle of arrogance he always upheld. But he simply couldn't accept the fact if Xiang Beifei turned out to be N-level. "I just can't believe that N-level awakeners have such potential. Their systems are garbage." They'll spend their entire lives achieving so little. They can't possibly have such strength, Long Guoqing said through clenched teeth. Why can't N-level awakeners defeat SR? How many can surpass Shang Tianxiong, who is also an N-level awakener? Those with strength can even kill SSR levels. We all live in this world, all human, and you're no nobler than anyone else. Just because your starting point is higher, it doesn't mean your future will be superior. Stay humble, Xiang Beifei said. After saying these words, Xiang Beifei went straight back to his own room. Humble, huh? At around 9 o'clock in the evening, Yi Changfeng gathered everyone to discuss the competition schedule and rules for the next day's match, which he had just received. Elder Luo said, "We need to discuss the situation for tomorrow. Everyone must stay alert." Everyone was already aware of the rules. The freshman competition was divided into individual matches and group pioneering. For the individual matches, 9 schools would compete in turn, where each school would face off against the others only once, which meant every school would participate in 8 matches, totaling 36 matches over 2 days. When it comes to deciding whether the Meridian opening stage or the Qi controlling stage would compete, it would be decided by rolling dice. For tomorrow's schedule, the first match will be Jizhou University against Yenzhou University. Our match won't be first, which is good. It gives us a chance to assess the strength of other schools. However, the second match will be Qingzhou University against Liangzhou University, Yi Changfeng said while distributing flyers to everyone, who all studied the schedule with serious expressions. Yu Qixin, talk to them about the strength of each school as it currently stands, Elder Luo instructed. Yu Qixin glanced emotionlessly at Xiang Beifei, then started his briefing. However, it stipulated that a person can only participate in a maximum of 2 matches. So at that time, teachers and I will need to analyze the situation before deciding how to assign the order of appearance and opponents among you 5, he added. This was like Tianji's horse racing, but not exactly the same. During Tianji's horse racing, each side faced off in 3 rounds, allowing for room to maneuver, whereas the 2 schools faced off in just 1 match, basically at random. So generally, it was hoped that other schools would handle the powerful students from different schools first, exhausting their 2 rounds, and then when it was their turn to compete, they could only use their weaker students. Take Qingzhou University and Liangzhou University for example. This year Qingzhou University has 2 SSRs, and each person must compete in 2 matches, meaning a maximum of 4 matches for the 2 SSRs. Thus, Yi Changfeng hoped that Qingzhou University would use the 4 opportunities for their 2 SSRs to contend with the other 7 schools, and by the time they faced his, they would have exhausted their slots and would have to send SRs into battle, thereby increasing his chances of winning. However, everyone came from elite schools and the teachers leading the teams certainly understood this principle, so the allocation of competitors would turn into a psychological game. Before the competition, no one could predict whether the opponent would send out their strong or weak contestants. You should be clear by now, this year our school doesn't have any SSRs, meaning we are weaker than the other schools by a margin. In one-on-one contests, it will be hard for you to gain an advantage, Yu Qixin said, his gaze fixed on Xiang Beifei. Apart from Qingzhou University, Yenzhou University, and Jizhou University, the other schools also only have 1 SSR, just 1 Meridian opening stage student. We don't need to worry too much, at least we have our classmate Xiang Beifei, Shiqiao said timidly from the side. The situation isn't that simple, Elder Luo said. The rules of the single matches are only 8 games, 1 point per game, so the total score is very important. But have you considered that other schools will surely find a way to secure 1 point? And against whom is that 1 point almost guaranteed? Long Guoqing and the others came to realize. Against us? Liangzhou University? Now, the other 8 schools all shared a common understanding that Liangzhou University did not have any SSRs this year, meaning no students were in the Meridian opening stage. So, to gain the guaranteed point, they would almost certainly send out Meridian opening stage SSRs against Liangzhou University. Because if SSRs were sent to contend with other schools, sometimes they would encounter opponents who were also SSRs, all in the Meridian opening stage, and inevitably one would lose. If it was their own loss, that would be quite unworthy. But now, Other schools believed that all of Liangzhou University's students were at the late Qi controlling stage, so sending a Meridian opening stage SSR against only Qi controlling stage students from Liangzhou University was almost a sure win. Everyone wanted to pick on the weak to secure an easy point. Right? This means our opponents in each match could potentially all be Meridian opening stage SSRs. Elder Luo said with deep meaning. The expressions of everyone grew grave. Elder Luo said, "All right, how to allocate our competitors and how to break this deadlock is something you five need to discuss on your own. Really? Why must they make this newcomer competition so complicated?" Ma Ziqian muttered on the side. For them, martial artists, the most straightforward approach was to rush in and fight it out the most hassle-free way. Because this is also a tactic. Elder Luo said, facing opponents with uneven strengths. How to arrange your competitors to break the stalemate and achieve more victories is a type of command strategy. Elite university competitions are not only about martial power but also about the ability to adapt to various situations, optimizing limited personnel most effectively. This tests the team leaders and also the freshmen. Cultivating this mindset for use when facing beast tides can also be applied to combat against them. Elite university martial arts colleges all aim to train pioneers and guardians, meaning the basic philosophy is combat. In the face of beast tides, desolate beast's power is unequal, so schools need to train students on how to maximize combat effectiveness with effective manpower allocation. This newcomer contest rule might seem very unfair, with Meridian opening stage students possibly facing Qi controlling stage students, making the combat almost one-sided and not truly reflecting the freshmen's real strength. However, in reality, when facing desolate beasts, there is never any notion of fairness. In battle with desolate beasts, the desolate beast's power is often somewhat stronger. Therefore, how to win and secure the most points is actually a test of each university's tactical and strategic capabilities. Which battle to give up and which to go all out in, whom to dispatch against different opponents, learning to make choices and engage in psychological warfare, not only a test of courage but also of intelligence. Although Elder Luo normally seems idle to the point of restlessness and seldom serious, he once served as the supreme commander against the Beast Tide in the Jiuzhou Alliance. His strategic perspective in commanding battles is incredibly formidable. As for the original intention behind the competition among the 9 elite schools, he couldn't be clearer. In other words, Elder Luo knew how to break this situation, but he didn't state it outright. Instead, he wanted Xiang Beifei and his team to think it over first, which was a form of training in itself. If their ideas weren't feasible, Elder Luo would then offer guidance. Having heard what Elder Luo said, there was no room for further complaints. Yi Changfeng and Yu Qixin sat aside as well, neither speaking any more, but instead observing the 5 people including Xiang Beifei. Xiang Beifei and his teammates remained silent. After a long pause, Long Guocheng was the first to speak. In tomorrow's competition, our first match is in the second round, against Qingzhou University. We don't know who they will send to face us. Xiang Beifei replied, the person Qingzhou University sends out tomorrow will definitely be Ho Qingguo. No surprises there. Long Guocheng asked, are you so sure? Qingzhou University has 2 SSRs and 1 UR, plus 2 SRs. They haven't decided on their candidates yet. Xiang Beifei insisted. It will definitely be Ho Qingguo. He once refused Liangzhou University and chose Qingzhou University instead. He must prove to others that not choosing Liangzhou University was the right decision. The way to prove it is to come and defeat us himself. That also makes sense, Li Zimu said thoughtfully, nodding. Considering you embarrassed him today, it stands to reason he'll want revenge. Xiang Beifei, do you have the ability to defeat Ho Qingguo? Shi Qiao asked. Xiang Beifei was silent for a moment before nodding slightly. The expressions of Long Guocheng and the others improved a bit. By now, they all acknowledged Xiang Beifei and were well aware of his prowess. Although not an SSR, this guy's strength was ridiculously strong. With him present, even if Liangzhou University couldn't compare to the overtly powerful other 3 universities, it was still strong enough to compete with other schools. But if the other schools all send SSRs against us, we're almost certainly doomed. Xiang Beifei can only participate in 2 matches, meaning he can at most secure 2 points. However, it's almost certain that the rest of us will lose, Ma Ziqian said. Unless we find a way to prevent them from using their SSRs against us, Li Zimu suggested. They all think we're pushovers now. How can we change their minds? Long Guoqing asked. Quite simple. We must let them know we are not as weak as they think, Xiang Beifei stated. Catching on, Li Zimu said, I get it. We need to show that our school has someone in the Meridian opening stage too. That way, they won't all use their Meridian opening stage fighters against us. That means tomorrow when facing Qingzhou University, Xiang Beifei, you must fight. With a person being allowed to fight up to 2 times, just a slight display of Xiang Beifei's strength in his first match would be enough to intimidate other schools, making them wary. Understand that the persimmon, that is Liangzhou University, might not be so easy to crush, because if another school's SSR faces the tough challenge of Xiang Beifei and loses, the loss would be considerable. Then, other schools would not thoughtlessly send out their SSRs to deal with Liangzhou University. This ability is quite peculiar whenever there are sins. Xiang Beifei stared at the wooden kirin. This creature represented brainlessness. Sadly, it was genuinely foolish and not feigning stupidity. The wooden kirin, originally huffing and puffing, became alert and raised its tail defensively when it saw Xiang Beifei looking at it, growling softly twice. Mr. Xiang, words cannot express how much I owe you. If there's ever anything I can assist you with, just say the word, and I will make it happen. Shen Jinrong didn't know what Xiang Beifei was thinking. He simply looked at the young man before him with eyes full of reverence, inwardly admiring such genius. No need. It was a mere trifle, Xiang Beifei said nonchalantly. Shen Tongtong whispered, Senior Xiang is so amazing. I wish I could be as powerful as Senior Xiang someday. You are at the SR level. Just keep training and you definitely will, Xiang Beifei said. Shen Tongtong nodded vigorously. He's so handsome and kind too. His voice is also very nice to listen to. Meanwhile, Shen Tongtong couldn't help but think to herself. She had always been covertly watching Xiang Beifei, her eyes filled with curiosity and excitement. She had fantasized many times about meeting Xiang Beifei in person, but she had never imagined it would be under these circumstances. In an era where everyone made choices, she was no exception. As an experienced chooser, she even knew things like Xiang Beifei's height and weight, his usual habits in the cafeteria, what his temperament was like. She knew them by heart. Imaginations about Xiang Beifei uncontrollably filled Shen Tongtong's mind. Let's go. We'll talk more when we get back, Xiang Beifei said. Oh, right. Shen Tongtong only then reacted, her face becoming slightly red. Xiang Beifei took them both into the air and then shouted to the wooden kirin, still huffing and puffing nearby, hurry up and make grass grow here to cover the tracks. Hua Jiyue and Gao Zhua had been dealt with, and soon members of the unrestrained might come here. At present, the unrestrained were still collecting information on Xiang Beifei. He had to ensure the cleanup was thorough. He had originally planned to use Return to the Original State to restore the area, but activating Return to the Original State required a lot of energy, and the aftermath of the battle was too widespread. It would be too laborious. He had only reverted the epicenter of the battle to its original state. The rest was up to the wooden kirin to control. The wooden kirin reluctantly controlled the trees and restored them, quickly turning the area back into a lush forest. Due to the peculiar nature of the exotic wilderness, the environment had strong regenerative capabilities and would return to its original state in just a few days. Xiang Beifei took the two to Liangzhou University and handed Gao Zhua over to Elder Luo. As a person in charge within the Su Alliance, Elder Luo took the matter very seriously. After all, the incident with the SR-level freshman during the newcomers' competition had caused a stir in Jiuzhou, and now that one had returned, the situation naturally required thorough investigation. This Gao Zhua, would Elder Luo's interrogation skills work on him? Or any other similar abilities that compel the truth? Xiang Beifei asked. Elder Luo was a versatile person who could enhance his abilities in certain aspects by accruing points, which included skills such as mind-reading technique and hypnosis, among others. "I've tried, to no avail," Elder Luo said, shaking his head slightly. The unrestrained measures for keeping secrets were obviously formidable. They had anticipated this. Otherwise, Elder Luo would have extracted the information from a captive member of the Unrestrained long ago. "That's going to be troublesome," Xiang Beifei commented. He hadn't found any useful system logs on Gao Zhuo's system because Gao Zhuo's system was the unparalleled chess player system, which only allowed him to get stronger by playing chess. The missions were also related to chess, leaving no chance to reveal his recent whereabouts. "Anyway, I'll involve Sun Hushuan in continuing the investigation of this matter," Elder Luo said as he kicked Gao Zhuo, who was lying motionless with golden patterns flickering all over his body, and then asked, "You're doing?" "Yes, I immobilized him. Right, his heart should contain a beast pill, which is the reason for his strength. You might try to open up his heart and take out the beast pill, then examine his cultivation level. I suspect that all of the unrestrained might have such hearts," Xiang Beifei said. He always felt that the unrestrained people had grown formidable because of the beast pill in their hearts, and he needed confirmation. "It's like that? Let's go dissect him," said Elder Luo, without any hesitation, promptly carrying Gao Zhuo to the university's desolate beast dissection room. This classroom was originally designed for dissecting various desolate beasts, equipped with all kinds of dissection tools. Of course, this was probably the first time it was being used to dissect a living person. Surgical knife control ability. 9,999. Medical mastery. 9,999. Elder Luo quickly applied all his knowledge about dissection into his accrual of points. "What if he doesn't survive because the heart gets damaged?" Xiang Beifei asked. Putting on a mask and picking up a shiny scalpel, Elder Luo said, "I'll just make a simple incision. Remove the beast pill quickly, and do you have healing abilities? After I remove it, you can heal it quickly." "I can do that. But what if there are problems with the heart after the beast pill is removed?" Xiang Beifei asked. Without a second thought, Elder Luo replied, "Then we'll take a cultivated pig's heart from over there for a transplant." Opening the chest, expanding the rib cage, Elder Luo skillfully cut into Gao Zhuo. With his abilities, he didn't even bother taking X-rays or using an MRI. Instead, he relied on his enhanced abilities, coupled with his spiritual power, to handle all the preparatory work for surgery on his own. Anesthesia was unnecessary. Elder Luo could use his formidable spiritual power to influence Gao Zhuo's cognition, making him forget what pain felt like. After making the incision and reaching Gao Zhuo's heart, which was still beating inside the open chest, Xiang Beifei assisted in stopping the bleeding. Elder Luo let out a light exclamation. "This heart is larger than that of a normal person. It is overly large. That's why I'm very curious. It seems like it has been stretched, or rather its potential prematurely overdrawn," Xiang Beifei responded. He had seen many such deformed hearts. Just a few hours before, he had crushed one. "The lifespan of this heart has been greatly shortened. They must have been relying on a beast pill as an energy support, but something feels off. Why does it feel strange?" Elder Luo held a pair of tweezers and was searching through Gao Zhuo's chest cavity. Soon, he suddenly raised his head, looking very surprised. "What's wrong?" Xiang Beifei asked. "Take a look at this." Elder Luo pointed to where the heart connected to the blood vessels for Xiang Beifei to see. Among those dense blood vessels, there was a hint of tiny white strands swirling around. It was like white spider silk, clinging to the walls of the blood vessels, not yet fully spread out. "This aura, it's not that." Xiang Beifei was also surprised. "Did you sense something?" Elder Luo asked. Xiang Beifei took a scalpel and gently cut one of the blood vessels. The blood quickly flowed out, but Xiang Beifei used his spiritual power to seal the wound. Then he slowly peeled the blood vessel apart, and immediately, whoosh, the white strands retracted quickly, withdrawing back into the heart. "This thing seems familiar. I don't know where I've seen it before," Xiang Beifei said. "First, take down the beast pill." Elder Luo immediately made an incision in the heart, revealing a white beast pill inside. The moment he cut into the beast pill, it was clear that the white strands were withdrawing into it. He swiftly acted, plucking the white beast pill out. However, at that moment, Gao's blood suddenly stopped flowing, and his body's vitality swiftly began to fade away. Beep! The instrument detecting life fluctuations started to alarm. It seems his life force is ebbing away. It's the beast pill. He was bound to the beast pill. Without it he'll die. Put it back. Elder Luo made a decisive call. Elder Luo immediately reopened the heart and stuffed the beast pill back into Gao's heart, while Xiang Beifei quickly used the technique revert to simplicity to heal the incision. Gao's body then stabilized. The signs of his life force ebbing stopped. Elder Luo could only resew the heart's incision, frowning as he said, "He's a student from Jizhou University. He can't die yet." No matter how Gao Zhuo got involved with Unrestrained, he was now the key to finding the other missing students, and it was necessary to see if more crucial information could be obtained from him. "At least one thing is certain," Xiang Beifei said thoughtfully. "What's that?" He indeed became stronger because of the beast pill. Xiang Beifei had been paying attention to Gao Zhuo's system interface. The instant the beast pill was removed, Gao Zhuo's system information had changed. Realm, late Qi controlling. Now, his system information had reverted back to mid-god refining. Is it possible that the other missing students have also become one of the Unrestrained? Elder Luo asked. First, we'll have to locate Unrestrained's stronghold. Xiang Beifei planned to investigate Unrestrained's research base, because he must find Ziho. Elder Luo checked Gao Zhuo again but was still unable to find more clues, so for the time being, Gao Zhuo was locked up. Afterwards, 2 Su people were dispatched to covertly protect Shen Jinrong and the others, to prevent Unrestrained from making another move on them. Now that Elder Luo had taken over the Su Alliance, it meant that they had the conditions to investigate Unrestrained. With the power of the Su people, the task would be much easier. The Su Alliance itself was quite fragmented. Under Zhu Yiji's leadership, the alliance was hardly addressing real issues. He employed the Su people mainly to eliminate adversaries rather than to truly hunt Unrestrained. Anyone who opposed him, Zhu Yiji would simply label Unrestrained, then deploy the Su people. Elder Luo was currently reorganizing the power of the Su Alliance. Xiang Beifei had even released Eternal Sleep and Keishi, and forcibly branded their souls, ensuring they would be much more compliant. Eternal Sleep and Keishi didn't dare do much anyway. With Zhu Yiji gone, they were lucky to have their lives spared. So, next, Xiang Beifei needed to deal with Ziho's matter. According to Elder Luo's investigation, Ziho was very likely the core research base of the Wufu Desolate Beast Research Company. He must first find a way to infiltrate the company. That means he would have to get a job there. For 30 revision. "That's right," Xiang Beifei said without changing his expression. "Are you guys all right?" Yu Hongba asked. "Not too bad." Xiang Beifei glanced back at Tang He, who was from Qingzhou University. Their team's situation seemed very grim at the moment. When Tang He saw Yu Hongba and the others, he also showed a shocked expression, for he hadn't expected to encounter people from Yenzhou University. To think that their Qingzhou University's Ho Qinggu had died at the hands of Zhu Pengfei. However, he didn't dare to say much now. Being only a Qi-controlling later-period SR-level awakener and without any teammates by his side, he was no match for the people from Yenzhou University. "How long have you been in this withered forest?" Xiang Beifei asked. "We've been here since last night," Yu Hongbo replied. "Last night? You've been here for almost a day." Xiang Beifei was somewhat surprised. "Yes, we came here last night." Yu Hongbo now had no intention of dealing with Xiang Beifei. On the contrary, he even entertained the idea of joining forces with Xiang Beifei, because their team was also in a very embarrassing position. This place was just too strange. They were trapped and couldn't find a way out. Upon seeing Xiang Beifei, Yu Hongbo felt a glimmer of hope. Xiang Beifei was strong. Maybe he had a way. "So you're fine?" Xiang Beifei asked. One of us had an accident, Yu Hongbo said with a heavy tone. Now only 4 people remained in their team. Have you been on this mountain since last night? Xiang Beifei inquired. Not exactly. We initially walked through the withered forest, but then it suddenly got dark and things seemed off, so we ran up the mountain. We found that those tray ants wouldn't dare to come up, which was a relief. We weren't on this mountain at first. We were on another one. Are you that N-level awakener, Xiang Beifei? Chun Baiwen's expression wasn't good as he faced Xiang Beifei. He didn't really want to come up because Ho Chenggu had lost inexplicably before, and he didn't see clearly how Ho Chenggu lost. If he lost to an N-level student as well, his reputation would be almost ruined. However, if he didn't come up to challenge Xiang Beifei, it would be even more cowardly, as if indirectly proving that he, a distinguished SSR-level awakener, was afraid of an N-level one. That would mean Xiang Beifei triumphed without a fight. After all, like Ho Chenggu, he had also scoffed at Liangzhou University for recruiting N-level students and was persuaded by other universities not to go to Liangzhou. Chun Baiwen, having chosen to give up on Liangzhou University initially, was an SSR with a high opinion of himself. How could he not prove himself? Xiang Beifei just looked calmly at Zhu Xinjue, but a murderous intent appeared in his eyes. He had not killed this guy last time, and dealing with Zhu Xinjue, who apparently came to kill him, meant he must kill Zhu Xinjue this time. However, as soon as he finished speaking, he felt his knees bend, and with a snap, he suddenly knelt before Xiang Beifei. Zhu Xinjue and the others were also stunned. Ho Chenggu, what are you doing? Chun Baiwen asked in surprise. Ho Chenggu was also shocked by his own actions. Why had he knelt down? Wasn't it agreed to bring Xiang Beifei down? Why on earth was he the one who ended up kneeling? Ho Chengwu's face turned red with anger as he tried to stand up, only to find that no matter what, he couldn't get up. But just then, Ho Chenggu, with sharp eyes, suddenly spotted Xiang Beifei and shouted, "He's over there!" This time everyone saw clearly. Xiang Beifei was a real person. Others also saw Xiang Beifei, but because of the flood, it was difficult for them to separate. Yu Hongbo, you watch these SRs for us? We'll deal with him, Ho Chenggu called out. All right. Yu Hongbo had to take care of his subordinates. Otherwise, the SR-level awakeners would be directly submerged by the flood. Zhu Xinjue's eyes showed a trace of ferocity as a huge glass ball appeared in his hand. Between flashes, the glass ball turned into an illusory light, enveloping the void. This time, I'd like to see where you can go, Zhu Xinjue sneered. The glass ball was a UR-level space system item, capable of rendering any form of spatial teleportation ineffective. Since everyone had forfeit talismans, Zhu Xinjue was worried that Xiang Beifei might escape. Soon Ho Chenggu, Zhu Xinjue, Chun Baiwen, and He Qiutong surrounded Xiang Beifei. Their powerful auras were no weaker than the flood, and they watched Xiang Beifei closely. Xiang Beifei, although I know you are strong, now there are 4 of us, so I advise you to forfeit, He Qiutong said. He Qiutong was unaware of Zhu Xinjue's plan. Like Chun Baiwen, her aim was merely to get Xiang Beifei eliminated. Xiang Beifei looked indifferently at the 4 people in front of him. 4 people easier to deal with than 5. That's right, we don't want to harm you. Just drop out peacefully to avoid trouble, Chun Baiwen said gravely. However, Ho Chenggu and Zhu Xinjue beside him were filled with endless killing intent. What are we waiting for? To make him drop out, we need to take him down first, Ho Chenggu exclaimed. This time, facing Xiang Beifei, he had full confidence. Despite his unexplainable defeat on the stage last time, now it was 4 against 1. No matter how powerful Xiang Beifei was, in his eyes, he was definitely a dead man this time. Ho Chenggu clenched his teeth and said, "Today, you will pay the price." That day, despite being an SSR, he was stuffed into a trash bin, losing all his dignity. Today, he must kill Xiang Beifei. 3 against 2. Not too bad. Not too terrible, Xiang Beifei remarked. 3 against 2? Zhu Xinjue sneered. Have we scared you, silly? Can't you even count anymore? It's 4 of us against just you. President Ren is so revered and respected. He himself has said, "Name isn't important, strength is." A senior who can say such things must have a broad mind. How could he mind these trivial matters over names with me? As President Ren's proud student, why are your principles different from President Ren's? Xiang Beifei looked at Ho Qingguo in confusion and added, "Haven't you learned even a bit from him?" His words were watertight, first sarcastically targeting Ren Zhonghai, then swiftly elevating Ren Zhonghai to a high status so that Ren could not react to Xiang Beifei's teasing about names, and immediately subtly insulted Ho Qingguo. "You!" Ho Qingguo was so infuriated by Xiang Beifei that his face turned red. In midair, Li Zimu stood there, surprised at the scene below, and said, "They actually can't tell. The flood here was an illusion created by Li Zimu's poetry realm." Li Zimu's poetry realm had reached a level where real and fake were indistinguishable. However, Ho Qingguo and Chen Baiwen were SSRs a level higher than him and even more advanced in their cultivation. Logically, they shouldn't have been this flustered. Of course they can't tell. None of these people are spiritual system awakeners, Xiang Beifei stated. The spiritual power of Xiang Beifei had adhered to the poetry realm created by Li Zimu. Thus, even though Li Zimu was only at a later stage of qi controlling, the flood he created possessed the force of the meridian opening stage. As for the suppression due to system level, with Xiang Beifei present, the so-called superiority of the SSR system was merely a decoration. He had specifically sought Li Zimu's help to trap this group of people. However, as they walked on, suddenly a fork in the road appeared ahead. Traces of Xiang Beifei reappeared at the fork, but then vanished again on this new path. "Which path should we take?" Ho Qingguo asked Chen Baiwen urgently. "I don't know, no traces." Chen Baiwen shook his head. "Forget it, let's split up into 2 groups. It'll be quicker that way," Zhu Xinjue suggested. "Splitting up into 2 groups means dispersing our strength. If we encounter Xiang Beifei, do you really think we'd stand a chance?" Chen Baiwen questioned. "Xiang Beifei is clearly being chased by that desolate beast. If we encounter him, how could we not have a chance?" Zhu Xinjue argued. After a brief discussion, they decided to split up but agreed to signal the others if they encountered Xiang Beifei. If they couldn't find anyone within half an hour, they would regroup here. To ensure mutual trust, they decided to mix members from both groups. Zhu Xinjue and Yu Hongba, He Chodong took one path, while Chen Baiwen and Ho Qingguo took another. Ho Qingguo and Chen Baiwen led 3 SRs down the left path. Chen Baiwen seemed to be preoccupied, yet Ho Qingguo still cautioned, "Don't forget our agreement." Xiang Beifei seemed to realize something and said, "Digesting memories? When a desolate beast eats the brain of another desolate beast, it can sometimes gain the memories of that beast, meaning whatever the other beast had seen and heard could be digested by the one who ate it. If this green caterpillar was squashed by Long Guoqing, that means it saw Xiang Beifei and these people. Even if the green caterpillar didn't understand human language, it would still retain images in its mind. When they encountered the green caterpillar, what exactly did they say? Was it remembered by the caterpillar? Eating the brains of other desolate beasts to compensate for their own deficiencies and expand their knowledge implies that the more they eat, the higher the intelligence these desolate beasts will possess. A powerful but simple-minded desolate beast is not terrifying, but those with high intelligence are the most frightening. Currently, it's unknown what impression this caterpillar, squashed by Long Guoqing, left about them. Li Zimu's stone house had many rooms piled up. Everyone was separated by one room without a bed or quilt. Although it was simple, such arrangement wasn't much of a concern in the outer wilds. When Xiang Beifei returned to his duty, Long Guoqing stood with his hands clasped in front of him, leaning against the door and said, "Can I ask you a question?" "What?" Xiang Beifei replied. "You're not an N-level awakener, are you? You're at least SR, right? Is that important to you?" "It would make me feel better," Long Guoqing said reluctantly. If he lost to Li Zimu, an SR-level competitor, he wouldn't feel too embarrassed, as his talent was not inferior to his, and being both SR, losing now just meant he could win next time. But losing to an N-level awakener left a lump in his heart. "That's your own problem, nothing to do with me," Xiang Beifei did not like to explain his own system to people, because he did not have a system at all. We are a team. I've told you all about my abilities, yet we do not know yours. As a team, we should have an understanding of each other. Long Guoqing stressed. So now you admit we're a team? I thought you always liked to hog the limelight, Xiang Beifei said. Long Guoqing hummed and did not rebut this point. He indeed loved hogging the limelight, as without it, he couldn't accumulate system values. If you tell me you are SR or SSR, then I will lose with no hard feelings, Long Guoqing said. Do you look down on people with a lower system level than yours that much? What's wrong with being an N level, or an R level, or an S level? Besides their advancement in cultivation, what about their character, morals, personality? Which aspect is inferior to you that warrants your scorn? Do you really enjoy finding a sense of superiority over those with lower systems? Xiang Beifei said sternly. Long Guoqing was rendered speechless. He looked down on those with inferior talents because, in his view, they would never amount to anything, especially the lower-ranking N-level awakeners. He only respected the strong. Yet his pride was always shattered in front of Xiang Beifei. He dearly hoped that Xiang Beifei's system was SR or even SSR. He could accept it if Xiang Beifei defeated him, allowing him to maintain his cherished principle of pride. But he absolutely couldn't accept the fact that Xiang Beifei was an N-level. I just can't believe that an N-level awakener could have such potential. Their systems are so useless, their achievements so limited in a lifetime. It can't be possible for them to have such strength. Long Guoqing gritted his teeth. Why can't an N-level awakener defeat an SR? Shang Tianxiong is also an N-level awakener. How many people can surpass him? People with strength can kill an SSR even if they are SR level. Everyone lives in this world. We are all humans. You are not nobler than anyone. You just had a higher starting point. It doesn't mean you are higher in the future. It's better to stay humble, Xiang Beifei said. After saying this, Xiang Beifei went directly back to his compartment. Humble, huh? Long Guoqing's expression fluctuated as he pondered Xiang Beifei's words. Around 9 p.m., Yi Changfeng gathered everyone together. He had obtained the schedule and rules for tomorrow's competitions. Elder Luo said, "We need to discuss tomorrow's situation first. Everyone should stay alert." Everyone was already familiar with the rules. The freshman competition consisted of individual fights and team pioneering. For individual fights, 9 schools would compete in a round-robin format, with each school facing each other once, which meant each school would fight 8 matches, totaling 36 matches over 2 days. The decision whether to go for meridian opening or chi controlling would be decided by rolling dice. Tomorrow's schedule, the first match, Jizhou University versus Yenzhou University. Having the ability to communicate with desolate beasts is indeed rare. Such individuals are highly sought after in the pioneering departments of the Union, especially for missions in foreign desolate territories. Students from elite universities are often recruited by the pioneering department as soon as they graduate. Shun Tongtong, as an awakener of the SR grade beast language system, possessed exceptionally powerful desolate beast communication abilities. She was precisely the type of talent they sought. It was understandable that the Wufu Desolate Beast Research Company urgently needed such system awakeners, but the question was, did they really need them to this extent? After all, Zhuzhou residents had been studying the characteristics of desolate beasts for generations in order to combat them, summarizing a set of behavioral languages for desolate beasts and collecting and recording translators for common desolate beast sounds. Although the translation couldn't guarantee 100% accuracy, the primary business of the Wufu Desolate Beast Research Company was to provide various types of edible desolate beasts to the Zhuzhou continent, capturing them ultimately for slaughter. Even if they wanted to research and improve desolate beasts, those beasts weren't very powerful, with the strongest only at the meridian opening stage. In such cases, the beast language translators were absolutely sufficient. So why did they specifically need someone to communicate with the desolate beasts? Considering that people like Hua Juyu and Gao Zhuo were targeting someone like Shen Tongtong, Xiang Beifei always felt there was more to it than met the eye. Normally, Shin Tongtong was still just a high school student, and her knowledge was not comprehensive. Such a person, even if joining the Desolate Beast Company, would be groping in the dark. Only by going to university to systematically study Desolate Beast knowledge and advancing her cultivation could she better handle her duties. But Unrestrained seemed very urgent, and so did the Wufu Desolate Beast Research Company. What exactly were they so urgent about? The two people in the stairwell did not discuss this further, and Xiang Beifei did not ask further. He was just an applicant ready for an interview. It was most important to blend into the company first. Once he was in, there would be plenty of opportunities to snoop around. The elevator quickly reached the 6th floor. He stepped out and was met by a long corridor, with a light blue floor that looked impeccably clean. The offices lined both sides of the corridor. For a large conglomerate like the Wufu Desolate Beast Research Company, the Human Resources Department alone occupied an entire floor, as they dealt not only with employee matters but also with filing various Desolate Beast records. He turned left through a yellow glass door and arrived at room 501, only to find that 6 people were already waiting there. When he entered, they all looked up, their expressions ranging from wary, curious, arrogant, to indifferent, apparently all job seekers. Large companies have many applicants each day, and the positions required a large number of personnel. Normally, there would be more than these people, probably waiting to go in for their interviews one by one. Xiang Beifei found a seat and began observing the system interfaces of these job seekers. Those present were mostly older than Xiang Beifei, with 1 or 2 looking like they had just graduated. Most were S-grade with a few R-grade awakeners. The positions applied for varied, as did the requirements for system awakeners. For instance, the girl in a yellow dress beside him had awakened the R-grade notification system. Her system log was filled mainly with notifications. From her system log, it seemed she had been the class president in school, often posting various announcements in the class group, including exam schedules and holidays, all handled by her system tasks. She was likely applying for an administrative position. Another side had a young man dripping with sweat, appearing quite nervous and looking around restlessly, muttering to himself. His system was the R-grade penny pinching system. He would insist on going Dutch at meals and precisely calculate down to 3 decimal places. He was probably applying for an accounting position. Not far away, there was a man in a yellow jacket, an awakener of the R-grade Fiery Eyes Insight system. With such a high-end name, it was clear he possessed a very special discernment ability. His probable job application was for a product quality inspector. Of course, apart from these, he also spotted a man dressed in thick clothing, looking like he was wrapped like a dumpling in this scorching heat, seemingly awakened to some cold-natured constitution, too frail for comfort. Yet, as soon as he sat down, he started removing his outerwear, then a sweatshirt, a strong odor of sweat wafting through the air, causing people nearby to frown in disgust. But this man seemed utterly oblivious, and after a while, he put his removed clothes back on, only to start undressing again after 5 minutes. His behavior looked very strange, but in reality, he had awakened the S-grade armor-shedding system. This system had a unique ability. Shedding off one's body defenses could enhance his own power. This meant that him removing an item of clothing, or getting someone else to take off theirs, was essentially equivalent to completing a task. After all, even the thinnest clothes served as a protective item. Of course, helping someone trim their nails or trimming his own also counted as performing tasks. He trimmed his nails right to the flesh, almost as if he wanted to pull them all out. However, his most formidable ability was aimed at desolate beasts equipped with armor, possessing an extremely strong armor-breaking capability. This person was here either to apply for a technician role researching armored desolate beasts, or for a high-paying job like a desolate hunter within the company. The latter possibility was more likely. Xiang Beifei observed these people with interest, although he had tricked 2 ministers of the Union and even killed Unrestrained. But he had, in strict terms, entered society for the first time, just about to experience the life of a corporate drudge, yet he was still profoundly curious about these job seekers. In the martial arts college, he had seen systems mostly related to combat, but once out of the martial arts college, he realized that this world was not just about those with strong lethal systems, but also housed a variety of very special literary Dao system awakeners. The people in the reception room were all waiting, with 3 rooms on the other side apparently conducting interviews simultaneously. Every now and then, a voice would announce who should go to which room for an interview, and the people leaving the interviews looked either happy or distressed but were continually replaced by newcomers. A big company deserved its reputation with a never-ending stream of interviewees. Xiang Beifei had been waiting for half an hour when the pretty receptionist downstairs suddenly came over apologetically and said, "I'm so sorry. There has been a mistake in the notice. You are applying for the laboratory technician position. You should go to the laboratory on the 7th floor. They are waiting for you there." Okay. Xiang Beifei didn't care much and stood up to head towards the 7th floor. Just as he stepped out of the staircase, he saw an old man in a white lab coat standing there, discussing something with another young man. The old man in the lab coat, hearing footsteps, looked up and glanced at Xiang Beifei, asking, "Are you here to apply for the beast pill research technician position?" "Yes. I don't like people who are late," the old man in the lab coat said sternly. The receptionist notified the wrong location. "I waited on the 5th floor for half an hour," Xiang Beifei responded politely. "I hate liars. You better not lie to me." The old man immediately took out his phone and called the reception to confirm the matter. Xiang Beifei couldn't help but be surprised, thinking how seriously this old man took the matter, needing to confirm such a trivial issue personally. Soon, the old man received a response and angrily scolded the person on the other end of the phone. "You're not working diligently. Do you not realize you're wasting a lot of our time here? The time of our research department is wasted by you. If you can't handle this job, you might choose to resign. Otherwise, fulfill your duties properly." The old man sternly rebuked the person on the phone. Definitely not someone easy to provoke. Xiang Beifei couldn't help but think. "Don't be late next time," the old man said to Xiang Beifei after hanging up, then turned and walked inside. "If there is a next time," he added. "Okay." Xiang Beifei followed, all the while observing the old man's system interface. Host: Zhao Ruizhong. SR level, Biological Modification System. Stage: Early Orifice Transforming. This man specialized in researching various creatures. By modifying the bodies of organisms, they could be strengthened. This specifically manifested in ways such as catching a mosquito and breaking off one of its wings, which counted as a modification. Thus, normally if he plucked out one of his own hairs, cut his nails, or pulled out some fur from his pet, it all counted as modification. As long as the modified creature stayed alive, it would increase his system value. You have lost 3 hairs inadvertently modifying your own body, modification value +1. Modifying organisms, simple changes hardly added much system value, like shedding hair which was merely a point, but the more complex the modification, the more system value it added, and the amounts could be substantial. You transplanted the flame spray gland from the white flame rabbit to the extreme ice rabbit, giving the extreme ice rabbit powerful ice and fire attack abilities. Modification value +1821. The capabilities of Zhao Ruizhong's system to modify many desolate beasts, making them stronger, understandably made Xiang Beifei wary. Because enhancing desolate beasts, making them stronger, strictly speaking, was not a good thing. He suddenly remembered the 3 people from the marketing department he had met in the elevator earlier, who had been complaining about the sudden increase in strength of desolate beasts leading to fluctuations in the prices of edible-type desolate beasts. Could it be related to this man? But that didn't make sense because logically, since he was from the Wufu Desolate Beast Research Company, fortifying desolate beasts should result in economic losses for his own company. Dr. Zhao is very thorough. This time it was the receptionist's fault. Not yours, but be sure to be punctual next time. The young man walked beside Xiang Beifei and kindly reminded him, then smiled. "Of course, I hope you get hired. This lab always lacks personnel, and Dr. Zhao tends to dismiss those who do not meet the standards." "Does he often dismiss employees?" "Yes, he prefers to err on the side of deficiency rather than excess. He doesn't indulge those he finds unfit," the young man said. "I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Liang Hao, and I'm a technician in this lab. Host, Liang Hao, SR level, Super God Gene System. Stage, Early God Refining. This person's system also dealt closely with desolate beasts, akin to a biological modification system, where he could extract the genes of one desolate beast and transfer them to another, merging the two types of genes, making the resulting beast stronger. Liang Hao's system and Zhao Ruizhong's had a similar purpose. Both involved enhancing desolate beasts through modifications. Does everyone in this lab need to research how to make desolate beasts stronger? It was 5:30 when it happened. Zhu Yiji suddenly froze. His square and round rules failed again. Then I'll do it myself. The repeated failures made Zhu Yiji furious. His aura instantly swept into an invisible slap, flying towards Xiang Beifei's face. Xiaohe, we need to find someone we know to help us out. And while we're at it, collect a debt, Xiang Beifei said. Woof, Xiaohe asked, puzzled. Xiang Beifei stood up, rubbed his fists, and said, Yang Chengze. Yang Chengze was the team leader from Yenzhou University, and he was one of Zhu Yiji's men. During the incident of Zhu Xinjue's change of name and identity, Yang Chengze was involved as well. Under Zhu Yiji's instructions, he used his SR-level subtle influence to change the minds of students who suspected that Zhu Xinjue was Zhu Pengfei. After Xiang Beifei led his team out from the Withered Woods, Yang Chengze went to question Xiang Beifei, trying to pin Zhu Xinjue's death on him. Too bad he underestimated Xiang Beifei. But last time, Xiang Beifei wasn't strong enough to truly influence Yang Chengze's thoughts, only able to somewhat guide him. But now it was different. However, Xiaohe had already charged from Professor Guo's side, extending a paw to smash the square and round rules beneath Sun Hushuan's feet. Minister Zhu. Commander He. The two of you are going too far. Sun Hushuan had been confined at first but finally broke free and immediately called out to stop them. Zhu Yiji's expression darkened once again. Sun Hushuan had broken through his square and round rules as well. However, Zhu Yiji could no longer take action. Today's events were already unfavorable for him fundamentally. The moment he attacked anyone, it also made He Kaiwei realize something. He still had a chance to prove his innocence. He had been dragged into this matter. But those words were only heard by Zhao Yong from Wu Shishuan's mouth, saying it was under his instigation. Even if Zhao Yong said so, it couldn't directly prove that the framing was related to him. The only way he could clear himself now was to sacrifice the pawn to save the chariot. That is to say, Wu Shixian must be kicked away. He could just say that Wu Shixian was framing him. A hint of coldness appeared in He Kaiwei's eyes. The entire conference room had become tense as a drawn bow. Everyone stop. Don't go too far. Zhu Yiji finally stood up and said coldly, You three dare to cause trouble at the school. Do you really not take me seriously? His gaze was like an eagle's, scrutinizing Professor Guo and the other two, particularly resting on Xiang Beifei. He hadn't noticed how Xiang Beifei managed to appear in the classroom, which made him wary. However, at this moment, Zhu Yiji stood tall like the midday sun. He was still the strongest person here. He could still suppress these few. He quickly looked at his own system interface, detected that Luo Yunxian is enraged. Spend uniqueness value to enhance your own defense. 10 million. However, Luo Yunxian had already raised his hand. When He Kaiwei's aura hit the invisible barrier in front of Professor Guo, it was as if it had collided with a tough city wall. Around this wall, strange spiritual power circulated, dissolving and transforming all of He Kaiwei's attacks before guiding them along the same path, striking back at him. Buzz! He Kaiwei was once again pushed back by Professor Guo's counterstrike. To be precise, he was pushed back by his own momentum. How is this possible? He Kaiwei stared hard at Professor Guo. He had always known that Professor Guo was strong, but because Professor Guo was only at the mid-stage of orifice transforming, he had never taken the SR-level Professor Guo seriously. But he had overlooked one thing. Professor Guo, with his mid-stage orifice transforming strength, didn't have many means of attack, and his attack power wasn't great, but he possessed the strongest defense in the alliance. This defense was the confidence he had to withstand late-stage orifice-transforming martial artists with his mid-stage strength. For him, the strongest defense was to counterstrike. And He Kaiwei couldn't shake him at all. "Speak the truth. What's the matter?" Zhu Yiji shouted. Zhao Yong slapped his head and said, Wu Shixian was talking to himself. He said that both Zhu Yiji and He Kaiwei wanted to deal with Luo Yunxian, and that he should dispose of Professor Guo by Luo Yunxian's side first. So, to set up Professor Guo, we would have to give false testimony. If he does well in this matter, he should be rewarded greatly. Yes. There was also a person called Zhu Yiji, like He Kaiwei, who instructed Wu Shixian to frame Professor Guo. Zhao Yong blurted out everything he knew. With his words, the entire conference room fell silent. The 20 or so leaders from Liangzhou University all gasped in shock, feeling chilled to the bone. Zhu Yiji? Zhao Yong actually said that Zhu Yiji was involved in framing Professor Guo. Everyone knew about Zhu Yiji's frankness without evasion ability, witnessed by all. Inside this black square, absolutely nobody could lie. That meant what Zhao Yong was saying right now was 100% truth. Zhu Yiji had let Zhao Yong reveal that Zhu Yiji was a perpetrator? Mr. E, how is your mental defense? Can you block the influence of the UR Awakener system like Elder Luo? Xiang Beifei asked. Many high-level system awakeners can control lower-level systems with their own. Yi Chongfeng's strengths and talents were only above average within the alliance, but not by much. Barely. Many people in the alliance have grievances against Elder Luo and have been trying to probe his secrets through me. Thus, I specifically followed Elder Luo in training my spiritual power. I may not reach his level, but at least I can protect myself, Yi Chongfeng replied. Yi Chongfeng's spiritual power was extremely strong. After all, he was also a direct disciple of Elder Luo. Compared to Xiang Beifei, his talent might not seem like much, but in reality he far surpassed other SRs. Many in the alliance coveted Elder Luo's position and, naturally, they would try to target Yi Chongfeng from his side. Those system abilities that forced the truth, mixed up facts, and other psychic manipulations all fall under the category of spiritual control. That's why he practiced extremely hard on his spiritual defense, to prevent such incidents from happening. It was only after Xiang Beifei had confirmed this point that he said, "This matter is actually related to me." In the end, he still revealed the ins and outs of the entire matter, only omitting the details about Shaoshang, his grandfather, and that mountain. After listening, Yi Chongfeng was tremendously shocked. Such a big issue, why are you only mentioning it now? Why didn't you tell us earlier? If you didn't tell me, you should have at least informed Elder Luo, said Yi Chongfeng, who looked very angry and even a bit frightened. Xiang Beifei may have made light of it, but Yi Chongfeng could easily imagine how dire the situation was at that time. What does Mr. Yi think Elder Luo would do if I told him? Asked Xiang Beifei. Yi Chongfeng was slightly startled before he finally came to a realization. I was too hasty, he admitted. He understood Elder Luo's temperament well. The old man, protective of his own, would rush off to settle accounts with He Kaiwei without a second word. However, the problem was that He Kaiwei wouldn't have made his move without a fallback plan, and he would have cleaned his hands of the entire matter. Then it would be Elder Luo who would be at a disadvantage. Elder Luo was already excluded from the alliance, and it wouldn't be wise for him to confront someone without evidence. Yi Chongfeng furrowed his brows as he weighed the pros and cons of the situation before he sternly said, No matter what, you must not admit that you killed anyone. Understand? I understand. An awakener at SR level would need at least 3 to 5 years, sometimes even longer, from the beginning of the meridian opening phase until the entry into the God refining phase. Awakeners at SSR level would also need around 2 to 4 years to reach the God refining phase. The URs are the quickest, generally needing around 1 to 2 years to step into the God refining phase without any problem. The videos that couldn't be deleted were stirred up by it, and although the Alliance had various formidable network tech awakeners, when facing the videos set by Xiaohe, they turned out to be duds. No matter how they used system items, they couldn't get rid of the relevant footage. Then, from a corner came Elder Luo's languid voice. Otherwise, how should the conversation go? In the martial arts college, it's all about who has the stronger fist. Why don't you two have a fight? Wei Tong turned his head to look, and only then did he realize that at some point Elder Luo had been sitting there. His face quickly changed. Fight? What a joke. Even though he was an SSR, he would not be able to withstand even one punch from Yi Changfeng. And Shiyu on the side realized something and asked, "You've reached the late stage of meridian opening?" Professor Guo also caught on and looked at Xiang Beifei with astonishment. He knew that Xiang Beifei was very talented, but under normal circumstances, he would at most be at the mid-stage of meridian opening. How could he have suddenly reached this level? After pondering for a moment, Xiang Beifei shook his head. Not yet. So what is your level of cultivation? Asked Professor Guo cautiously. Mid-stage meridian opening, replied Xiang Beifei. It wasn't that he didn't trust Professor Guo. Honestly, he was worried about Shiyu. Last semester, Shiyu followed his advice, opting to develop within the Alliance, and now she was interning within the Alliance. The Alliance had been keeping a watchful eye on him, searching for his information. So they would definitely use every means possible to find a breakthrough from the people around him. And Shiyu was clearly one of them. Of course, within Shiyu's character, Xiang Beifei believed she wouldn't actively betray him. But after all, she was only an SR in the late stage of meridian opening. The moment someone like Mu Yiqing, an SSR in the late stage of god refining, came along, it would be easy to extract information from Shiyu without leaving a trace, despite Liangzhou University's many security measures for its students. Liangzhou University was now not purely Liangzhou University anymore, like the person managing the martial arts college, a practitioner of the literary Dao who was sent by the Alliance and was keeping an eye on Xiang Beifei. His own strength had improved frightfully fast. With the awakening system, half a year was enough to reach the early stage of meridian opening, and in less than a year, he had reached the late stage of meridian opening, far surpassing ordinary SSRs. Such a terrifying cultivation speed was even beyond what UR Awakeners could achieve. If those people knew how fast his cultivation was progressing, they would probably stop at nothing to cause him trouble. Therefore, Xiang Beifei had to keep it a secret until he broke through to the god-refining stage. Only then would he truly have the ability to protect himself and not fear people like He Kaiwei. And he could even take the members of the Alliance, those lofty SSR and UR, by surprise and teach them a lesson. He had already spread this news, and had even made a point of demonstrating his mid-meridian opening strength in front of many students recently. This way, He Kaiwei could feel at ease. Now He Kaiwei would definitely think that it was Elder Luo who had killed those 3 people. He wouldn't dare act rashly. With He Kaiwei and the others focusing on Elder Luo, they wouldn't pay attention to Xiang Beifei, whose cultivation was only at mid-meridian opening. In this way, Xiang Beifei could quietly develop his strength. Once he had sufficient cultivation, then he could burst out and join the fight. So that's how it is. Professor Guo could accept this level of strength, but clearly lost some interest. He actually wished that Xiang Beifei's cultivation was at the late phase of meridian opening. Then why did you ask about the soul? Professor Guo asked again. A powerful aura on him concentrated into a sharp fierceness, silently falling upon Ma Cainian. When Ma Cainian saw Xiang Beifei, his heart trembled, frightened by Xiang Beifei's terrifying aura. Xiang Beifei was the one rumored to be able to kill a late meridian opening one-armed crab with a single punch. His presence here was no joking matter. Ma Cainian steadied himself and cursed under his breath, reminding himself that, after all, he was an official of the Alliance. No matter how famous this kid was, he was just a civilian without power or influence. If anyone should be afraid, it should be him. Xiang Beifei, such a big shot, Ma Cainian said with a snide tone. Xiang Beifei didn't speak. He glanced indifferently and then walked towards Kong Daming, asking, I saw the phone message just now. What happened to my grandfather? I don't know. He seemed to be feeling unwell, so I helped him upstairs to rest. He's upstairs now, Kong Daming said. Understood. I'll go up and see him. Without another word, Xiang Beifei headed for the stairs. However, Ma Cainian felt quite annoyed at being ignored. Humph. To think you don't even have basic manners. Get lost, Xiang Beifei said bluntly. Yes. Ma Kainyan's mind went blank, and he unexpectedly found himself lying down and actually rolling away on the ground. Ha! Kong Daming and Zhang Xiang were shocked to see Ma Kainyan rolling away on the floor, and they were completely stunned for a moment. Ma Kainyan actually really rolled away just like that? This turn of events was completely unexpected by them. Why do we need to patrol the archives room? Who would have nothing better to do than to come here to steal? If you ask me, it probably wouldn't matter even if we didn't come for a year, Zhou Guan said lazily, cradling the back of his head and following behind Sun Zhong. He was not very interested in this job and kept nagging the entire way. Once Sun Zhong reached the 3rd floor, he patrolled past rows of rooms. You have patrolled the N-level personnel review department. Patrol points +2. You have patrolled the N-level personnel dispatch department. Patrol points +2. Sun Zhong made a point of walking around the empty room twice, then pressed a button on the wall to confirm the alarm was set before leaving the room. You have patrolled the main archive room entrance. Patrol points +5. But at that moment, Zhang Xing thought of something and quickly pulled out his phone to video call his son. Then he asked, "Son, you said you've seen Xiang Beifei before. Take a look. Is this the man Xiang Beifei? The beast pill is the essence of a desolate beast. For instance, the beast pill of a thunder-type desolate beast would have the characteristics of lightning, while that of a fire-type desolate beast would have the properties of flames. In the study of beast pills, there has been a discussion on how to utilize the abilities contained within the beast pills to create various pioneering tools, also known as black technology by martial arts students, to aid them in having more life-preserving capabilities during pioneering activities. However, it's quite rare to utilize beast pills to cultivate an adult desolate beast for combat purposes. Of course, the systems of many people are related to desolate beasts. Awakeners with something like beast-controlling systems need to kill various desolate beasts and then seal them within their own systems to summon the desolate beasts in critical moments, becoming a force for their own battles. But the issue is, this type of system awakener only needs the beast pills, not the living desolate beasts. LV Pong and the others clearly couldn't understand this, but they didn't raise any objections either. After all, this was an interview. Zhao Ruizhong had already made it clear that what they were assessing was comprehensive technical ability. They just needed to complete the tasks as required. After all, during interviews, in order to test employees' divergent thinking abilities, some companies even ask insanely ridiculous questions such as, "There are only 5 cups of water in the office, but 6 liters have arrived. How would you distribute it?" Or, "There are 2 pairs of underwear, one dry and unwashed, one washed and not dried. Which one would you wear?" In comparison, those in technical fields just need to honestly show their abilities, without the need for all that. After speaking, Zhao Ruizhong and Liang Hao sat down at the side and began to monitor the 4 individuals, observing them while looking at the computer screens. In the lab, there was a storage rack for beast pills, with each container holding a beast pill of varying colors, from solid to dual-toned to rainbow. There were densely packed options, no less than 1,000 types. These beast pills were not labeled. Which beast pill belonged to which desolate beast, one had to select on their own. Everyone carefully observed the rack, meticulously distinguishing the beast pills. Since they needed to cultivate a desolate beast for combat, they would of course need to pick the most powerful desolate beasts. Identifying beast pills wasn't difficult for these 4, whether it was Song Xiu or Fan Yu, or even SR-level LV Pong. They were specialists in beast pills and could easily recognize most of them. While looking, they quickly marked off the names of the beast pills on their computers. Their pens were very special thought pens, a product created by system awakeners who specialize in thought systems. These pens were extremely expensive and required just a thought for the pen to swiftly write, much faster than writing by hand. For basic beast pills, it only took them a second or 2 to identify and label. But some beast pills looked identical on the outside when, in fact, they belonged to 2 different desolate beasts. Even those with abundant experience could make a mistake and would need to spend more time. Out of a total of 1,200 beast pills, LV Pong identified the beast pills of over 1170 desolate beasts, but there were about 30 beast pills that even he had never seen before. While Song Xiu and Fan Yu were also pondering, their extensive work experience was useful. They had been introduced to more beast pills than LV Pong, with probably only about a dozen they couldn't fully recognize. But this made the situation more complex. Dr. Zhao, whom do you favor among these four? Liang Hao asked. Zhao Ruizhong, staring at the four individuals hovering near the cabinets, countered, "What do you think?" After pondering for a moment, Liang Hao said, "LV Peng's ability might not be the strongest, but he's worth looking forward to, although he just graduated from university and doesn't have much work experience. His SR level system is enough to compensate for this deficiency." Zhao Ruizhong nodded slightly, admitting that the inherent advantages of SR level were there. Liang Hao continued, "Next would be Song Xiu. Song Xiu's resume is specifically filled with interactions with beast pills. He should have invented a type of scientific system and has 5 years of work experience. His proficiency with the application of beast pills is beyond doubt." He paused, then added, "Then comes Fan Yu. From his resume, the system he awakened seems to be related to biology. He also has 4 years of work experience. I checked the results he had published before, and they are really good. Perhaps we should consider him too." As for this Zhang Xian, Liang Hao sized up Xiang Beifei, then picked up the resume for another look and said, "Although he graduated from Liangzhou University, and his academic qualifications are no problem, his grades seem very good. Apparently a hard-working student. But the issue is, he has no work experience, which is a serious drawback. Compared to the first three, his system doesn't match LV Peng's, and his experience is less than Fan Yu's and Song Xiu's, lacking competitiveness." Having discussed his opinions on all four, Liang Hao added, "What do you think, doctor? Work experience doesn't always represent ability," Zhao Ruizhong said. "Then from which aspect does the doctor judge talent?" Liang Hao asked again. Zhao Ruizhong didn't respond immediately, simply watching the individuals, then said, "Let's see who selects a beast pill first." Liang Hao nodded thoughtfully. This was a contest, a competition between 3 S level and 1 SR level. Xiang Beifei rested his chin on his hand, looking at the beast pills he had marked. When he saw a white beast pill, he immediately furrowed his brows. Out of the 1,200 beast pills left by the desolate beasts, 1140 are from Qi-controlling period beasts, and the remaining 60 are from meridian opening period beasts. However, among them, a white beast pill was extremely conspicuous. Or to be more precise, only to him it was very familiar, because he couldn't be more familiar with this beast pill. One-armed crab, old woman, Gaozhua, Huajuyu, they all had such a beast pill in their bodies' hearts. In the storage cabinet, there were countless white beast pills, and this particular beast pill was hidden amongst all the other beast pills. In fact, it wasn't very noticeable, and if someone's eyesight was slightly off, it might have been mistaken for a beast pill from some ice and snow-class desolate beast. People like LV Pong and the other two couldn't recognize this beast pill, or they might have directly given it to the wrong person. However, Xiang Beifei remembered the strange fluctuation of this pill clearly and would definitely not mistake it. Are all these laid out for everyone to experiment on? Xiang Beifei's gaze flickered for a moment, but he quickly returned to normal. He didn't plan on taking this beast pill. Strictly speaking, he also was unsure what type of desolate beast this pill came from. Perhaps Zhao Ruizhong and Liang Hao knew. If he rashly chose this beast pill, Zhao Ruizhong and Liang Hao would definitely ask why, and he couldn't just say he had seen it before, right? But if he said he mistook it for another beast pill, it would also be quite embarrassing and could leave a bad impression on others later. Now that he had confirmed Wufu Desolate Beast Research Company possessed this kind of beast pill, he had to secure this position no matter what. Xiang Beifei shifted his attention away from this beast pill. If the competition was about the combat strength of the cultivated desolate beasts, normally, one would choose to cultivate a meridian opening period desolate beast. Cultivating a powerful meridian opening period desolate beast wasn't too difficult, but the ultimate goal was to have the desolate beasts fight each other, which meant Xiang Beifei couldn't enter the fray himself. So, even if his own cultivation was high, it wouldn't be of much use. The focus was on the desolate beasts. However, Xiang Beifei's last-minute cramming wasn't for nothing. Just yesterday, he had specifically looked up research papers on beast pills in the Alliance periodicals. One of the papers was titled On the Cooperative Relationship Between Earth-Head Snakes and Earth Dragon Beast Pills, and it was authored by Zhao Ruizhong. The Earth-Head Snake is a very peculiar desolate beast. It belongs to the Earth attribute desolate beasts and has normal strength comparable to a mid-meridian opening period martial artist when operating underground. As its name implies, no matter when, it only exposes one snake head, with the rest of its body fused with the earth. As long as there is soil, it is invincible within its realm because it can instantly move to any place within the earth, and its favorite mode of attack is to suddenly appear beneath its prey's feet and bite off their legs, an attack that is hard to defend against. The way to deal with an earth-head snake is quite simple. Fly or directly seal the ground's soil, forcibly changing it to concrete or steel, etc. In short, deprive it of its ability to move through soil. This drawback is obvious, so ordinary pioneers aren't very afraid of encountering an earth-head snake. Sprinkle some solidifying agent on the ground, and it can no longer move, no different from a clump of grass growing on the ground. But Zhao Ruizhong's paper proposed to use the Earth Dragon's beast pill to compensate for the Earth-head snake's weaknesses, making the Earth-head snake more perfect. The Earth Dragon is a desolate beast similar to a pangolin. It moves through soil as if it is moving through water very fast. Its ability is to twist spatial volume, so it can disregard the obstruction of soil space. The Earth Dragon specifically counters spatial system abilities. People like Zhu Xinjue, who create system spaces to obtain combat enhancements, are simpletons in front of an Earth Dragon. But it also has shortcomings. Away from soil, it dies. However, it can control soil, and during battle it forcibly twists space, excavates a piece of the ground soil, manipulates it, and then can directly transport itself to that chunk of soil suspended in the air. While the Earth Dragon's ability might seem formidable, it is only a meridian opening early phase desolate beast, and its combat prowess is nowhere near that of the Earth-head snake. Zhao Ruizhong's research aimed to use the Earth Dragon to make up for the Earth-head snake's drawbacks, applying the Earth Dragon's soil and spatial control abilities to the Earth-head snake. Once an Earth-head snake could manipulate soil and space, it wouldn't be limited to moving on the ground, but could also appear in any corner of the sky, greatly enhancing its strength. Normally, research aimed at making desolate beasts stronger is not allowed by the Alliance, but there is an exception, if the paper is based on helping martial artists. Thus, he published his work in a section like Sealed Desolate Beast. This section is especially for system awakeners who wish to seal an Earth-head snake as their combat force, since they rely on desolate beasts for their combat strength, and they must make up for the beast's drawbacks. After reading this paper, Xiang Beifei realized that Zhao Ruizhong's research also had its limitations because the Earth Dragon and Earth-head snake are two different types of desolate beasts. He was unable to coordinate between the two, achieving very limited success so far. It looks like if I want to get this position, I'll have to help him solve this problem. Hope everyone supports the official release. Qidian now allows you to collect free coins at the end of each chapter. Just watch a 15-second advertisement to get 10 coins, click at the end of each chapter, and click through 5 free chapters for about 2 minutes. You can collect around 50 coins a day. I update 7,000 words a day, which only requires 35 coins, so there are always some left over. These coins also provide income for the author, so supporting the official release is beneficial. Li Nanqing was also there to see the students' grades. Such an important event naturally could not proceed without the presence of the school principal, but he unintentionally overheard the conversation here and felt compelled to speak out. As a teacher, one should educate without discrimination and seek to discover each student's strengths, not casually label a student. Is it appropriate for a teacher to demean someone's child in front of their parents? Li Nanqing rebuked. Yang Hua dared not respond, but he still felt disdain in his heart. What strengths could a student like Xiang Beifei possibly have? I simply stated the truth. He will never be able to get into college. Li Nanqing turned around with an apologetic expression and said to Xiang Qingde, I'm sorry, Professor Yang just spoke out of anxiousness while waiting for the results. It was my negligence in not managing my staff properly. I hope you don't take it to heart. Not at all. Xiang Qingde was somewhat flattered. He knew that Principal Li Nanqing was at least at the meridian opening stage, with both high cultivation and status. It was rare for someone of his stature to apologize personally. Li Nanqing said, "You are Xiang Beifei's grandfather, right? Rest assured, I think highly of that boy. I understand his performance in this year's college entrance exam may not have been ideal, but it's all right. If Xiang Beifei wants to retake the year, I'll arrange a class for him." "Really? Thank you so much, Principal," Xiang Qingde gratefully said. Li Nanqing comforted him and then commanded, "Professor Yang, aren't you going to apologize as well?" Reluctantly, Yang Hua said, "Sorry, old Master Xiang. I was impulsive just then." However, he scoffed internally. Forget next year. Giving Xiang Beifei 10 more years might still not offer him a chance to get into college. Hope you do your best tomorrow. Don't let the pressure get to you. Just perform to the best of your abilities. Try not to overthink, and make sure to double-check your answers. Xiang Qingde gave a never-ending stream of instructions to Xiang Beifei. "Grandpa seems really nervous?" Xiang Beifei remarked. Xiang Qingde replied, "This is a significant event in your life, of course. Your grandpa is nervous." He knew Xiang Beifei's grades were poor, even very bad, and that his awakening system was at a low level, offering little hope for the future. But since the arrival of the awakening system 2 months ago, Xiang Beifei had changed, showing great diligence, which kindled some hope in him. "Slow down, you little rascal." Xiang Qingde noticed Xiaohe was almost diving into the bowl and patted Xiaohe's head gently. Ordinarily, others could not see Xiaohe, but since he discovered the temptation of delicious food, he wanted to join the dining table. So he decided to let Xiang Qingde see him to avoid the eerie sight of meat vanishing into thin air. Xiang Beifei simply mentioned that this was brought about by his system, and Xiang Qingde, having no suspicions, agreed to let him join the table and even prepared a small bowl for him. Xiaohe smacked his lips and belched contentedly. The dinner was simple yet pleasant. Xiang Qingde still waited for Xiang Beifei to finish his meal before he started eating. Xiang Beifei also ate only half his portion, saving the other half for his grandfather. Though life was modest, it was also warm. Xiang Beifei enjoyed this way of life. Xiang Beifei said, "Using surveillance to search probably won't work." "Why not? These glasses are high-tech, developed by our police forces, our Va-Di Center," Lu Jiwei whispered. "The person who developed these glasses is a big shot in the tech community. Even if he uses the invisibility system, his outline can still be captured and prominently marked, and the airflow would render the invisibility ability ineffective. Have you ever wondered why, despite Lai Wuying's long crime spree, you haven't captured even a glimpse of him, not even his silhouette? Other criminals at least leave a visual trail, but he's never left any trace on surveillance, has he?" Xiang Beifei commented. Hearing this, Lu Hong said, "He has strong anti-surveillance abilities. Surely he knows how to evade monitoring. He must have the ability to pass through walls, which is why we can't trace his movements or information." "But what if he isn't deliberately hiding?" Xiang Beifei asked. Lu Hong furrowed his brow and asked, "What do you mean?" "You should know better than I do about the abilities of systems. If his system could help him remain undetected by any electronic surveillance, then it's possible. If he has the capability to block electronic surveillance, then wearing these glasses wouldn't help you see him, even if he walked right past you," Xiang Beifei explained. Lu Hong looked at Xiang Beifei in surprise, initially thinking the youngster was just a novice who had newly awakened his system and hadn't even figured out his own capabilities yet. However, he hadn't expected Xiang Beifei to consider this possibility. "Keep talking. Then tell me, how do you think we should search for him?" Lu Hong asked quietly. "If his system is for blocking electronic devices, then wearing glasses would be like being blind with eyes open. So, if we use our naked eyes to compare, we can find out," Beifei said while walking through the crowd. Not far behind him, a figure closely followed. That was a man wearing glasses, carrying a briefcase, and dressed in a business suit, looking like an office worker. He maintained a distance of about 50 meters from Xiang Beifei, not too close nor too far. "Woof woof!" Xiaohe, perched on Xiang Beifei's shoulder, barked alertly. Is someone following us? Xiang Beifei frowned slightly and stopped when he passed by a bus stop. There were many people at the bus stop. Xiang Beifei leaned next to a young man who possessed an N-level insurance sales system, pretending to wait for the bus, and then turned his gaze backward. But the man in the suit seemed not to look at Xiang Beifei, walking past him without even glancing at him. Xiang Beifei caught a glimpse of the man's system interface. Host, Chun Gang. R-level, 8-faceted ingenious system. Realm, late Qi mastery. What is the 8-faceted ingenious system? Xiang Beifei was curious and was about to take a closer look at the man's system information, but the man called Chun Gang had already turned the corner and disappeared. Is that guy the one following me? Xiang Beifei inquired. Woof, Xiaohe nodded. As Xiang Beifei was pondering what to do, at that moment, a woman in a white dress wearing high heels came walking towards him from around the corner. Normally Xiang Beifei wouldn't have paid any attention to her, as the streets were busy with people of all ages now that work was over, if it weren't for the fact that he had just seen the woman's system interface. Host, Chun Gang. R-level, 8-faceted ingenious. Realm, late Qi mastery. The man in the suit was called Chun Gang, so why did this woman in high heels also go by Chun Gang? And their system information was exactly the same? Something didn't seem right. Xiang Beifei's foot, just lifted, paused again. Was the man in the suit and this woman in high heels the same person? Xiang Beifei was intrigued, and this time he took a serious look at the other person's system interface. 8-faceted ingenious system. Skilled in handling affairs, operating with ease. There wasn't much of an introduction to the system, just this sentence. However, he also saw the information interface for the 8-faceted ingenious system. You used the ingenious mirror to disguise yourself as a passerby? Disguise duration is half an hour. Remaining disguises for today, 5. This was something new. Xiang Beifei vaguely understood that this 8-faceted ingenious system was a system for disguises. Looking at the daily tasks on the other person's interface, they could disguise themselves as ordinary people up to 8 times a day. So how does this system complete tasks? Xiang Beifei was very curious about these things. Surely one couldn't get stronger by just disguising oneself, right? But he quickly found out that the other person grew stronger by interacting with people and learning their problem-solving skills. This 8-faceted ingenious system could even learn some of the special abilities of the people it disguised as once reaching a certain level. This kid's got a keen nose, he almost caught on to me. Luckily, he probably thinks I've walked far away. He'd never guess I'd disguise myself as a woman and come back to follow him. Chun Gang thought to herself as she, now in high heels, coldly walked up to Xiang Beifei. She craned her neck, pretending to look into the distance, waiting for the bus. Xiang Beifei still leaned on the bus stop sign, gazing at it absorbedly, as if looking for a particular stop. Chun Gang's gaze fell unintentionally on Xiang Beifei, and then her brows slightly furrowed. But come to think of it, why did the boss send me to investigate this kid's talent? He doesn't look like a UR-level hidden genius at all. Chun Gang was puzzled. In her recollection, if there were a UR-level awakener, the Zhuzhou Alliance would have officially sent someone to protect them long ago. How could they let such a rare gem wander around unchecked? Regardless, she needed to find a way to test this Xiang Beifei kid. Chun Gang squeezed closer to Xiang Beifei, also staring at the stop, and said, "Handsome young man, could you tell me how to get to Chenda Plaza by bus?" Xiang Beifei replied, "Take the number 16 bus." "Oh, bus route 16. Chun Gang suddenly realized. "You have conversed with Xiang Beifei, you have learned Xiang Beifei's accent. +1 to your accent material library. Current learning progress is 1%. You need to learn another 19% to discover the other party's system talent level." Xiang Beifei was slightly surprised to see Chun Gang's system prompt. This guy is planning to probe my system talent level? Xiang Beifei became wary. This kind of 8-faceted ingenious system could disguise someone as another person and even temporarily mimic the other's abilities. So if the impersonation progress reached 100%, would he have my learn by analogy? Or would he have the ability to see someone else's system? Xiaohe, is this system like I imagined? Xiang Beifei inquired. Xiaohe barked. No, his system is ineffective against you. It would only simply disguise itself as the image you usually present to others. That's good then. Xiang Beifei pondered and then asked, so do I count as having participated in his system task? Yes, his accent material library has recorded your accent, Xiaohe said. Very well, then this guy's next task reward is included in the postage. However, Xiang Beifei needed to figure out why this guy was tracking him. At that moment, however, just then, Yang Hua angrily rebuked Xiang Beifei. Xiang Beifei? Why did you wake Kong Shouwen? Xiang Beifei slightly furrowed his brow. This time, he didn't seem to have done anything wrong. Did he? He merely reminded Kong Shouwen that it was time for class. Why was he being criticized again? But Yang Hua sternly scolded, you, a class-bottom N-level awakener. How dare you disturb an S-level system user like Kong Shouwen? Kong Shouwen must have been tired from doing system tasks last night. Why did you go wake him? Xiang Beifei was bewildered by the scolding. You, with your lousy talent, even affect others. Hopeless case. Yang Hua glared fiercely at Xiang Beifei. Xiang Beifei remained silent, looking thoughtfully at Yang Hua's system panel. You have criticized Xiang Beifei, +1 teacher prestige value. Kong Shouwen seemed a bit dazed too. He had thought he was going to be punished by the head teacher to stand as before, but the head teacher, Yang Hua, was actually scolding Xiang Beifei, who was kind enough to remind him. On closer look, it was a chi-controlling pill. How is there another chi-controlling pill? Xiang Beifei was very surprised. Xiaohe deftly scratched at the pill-looking sketch in the book, which was drawn in the book, but somehow it managed to remove it. Looking grumpy, it took another soul-condensing pill from beside and tossed it into the book. The soul-condensing pill fell onto the page as if it had fallen into water. Soon after, black and white energy on the page rapidly entwined and wrapped around the pill. Buzz! A strange fluctuation passed. The soul-condensing pill on the page actually turned into two. Xiang Beifei's eyes lit up. He understood what Xiaohe was getting at. Are you saying this book can duplicate? Woof woof. Xiaohe nodded. Xiang Beifei looked at the two soul-condensing pills with delight. Although he was not yet a practitioner, he could tell that both pills were completely identical in terms of quality and aura. So the mascot had this kind of ability. Can I eat this extra chi-controlling pill then? Xiang Beifei asked. Compared to the soul-condensing pills, he felt that he needed the chi-controlling pill more, as stepping into the chi mastery realm was key. Xiaohe nodded again. Without any hesitation, Xiang Beifei swallowed the extra chi-controlling pill. A warm flow spread throughout his entire body, transforming all his meridians, as powerful strength continuously enhanced his physique. Every muscle in his body seemed to firm up in an instant. Stepping into the realm of chi mastery was completed in just an instant. It was even easier than he had imagined.